Hey, J-Bone Nation! Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester. The court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm good. How was the trip home?
It was, it was a lot because it was traveling. We crammed a game of mini golf in, and then made my way to Voorhees, New Jersey, and then We Ubered to the airport. But it was a travel day to be sure, but not too bad. No delays, nothing like that. So yeah, it was good to get home and see my beautiful wife and my Cameron and our doggy. So I was missing all those folks. So it was good. It was a great trip, but I was happy to be home for sure.
I bet.
Definitely. My daughter made me cry already. My Cameron, my 17-year-old, she gave me her card. She writes like next level like cards. So like she doesn't buy some Hallmark bullshit. Like it's a motto philosophy. We don't buy Hallmark cards. I'm like, if I need some pimp in a cubicle writing sentiments to me, then, forget about it. I'm like, we're big. Like I write my sentiments to my people. And so she just gives me like college rule paper. It's like, and it's the best, dude. If I were to read this card to y'all will be fucking like just like I was like sobbing. It's like she's 17. I'm like, you're the best card writer of all time.
Let me just say that's the first time anyone ever in the history of Hallmark has been referred to as a pimp for writing their greeting cards.
I mean, in terms of emotions, who's a bigger pimp than Hallmark? Man? I mean, they are emotion pimps, like lots of which I've never seen, man. But yeah, no, dude, man, yeah, she had me balling. But yeah, so today, dude, Vordier Day, Vordier, however you want to pronounce it. So I think we're getting like 4 of them, right?
I thought it was 3, but yeah, maybe 4. Yeah, 3 or 4. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah,
but it's
so
like you always
got Claire Russell, like the doctor, right?
Right.
And who else?
They're they're Axe and Recon guys, right? Isn't 2 of those? I feel like 2 of those are the feds, or I don't know if it's the defense's experts that they want to present, which I can't imagine they're worse than Cooper. Not so sure. I mean, Bob, I was thinking about this. How can you overcome that? To me, we've talked about a ton of shit this entire trial that like gives reasonable doubt. What could possibly give more reasonable doubt than an expert who's supposed to tell you how this happened and has no confidence, can't explain simple terms? I have no idea. I don't know. Why not? I've seen people on Twitter do a little to like a little video like with like kind of like the gray boy. Like why couldn't they have that? Why? Like it's almost like it's just so bad they couldn't even like they put no money or effort into that. Like just a joke, just a sham that guy was the guy that's trying to tell the jury how that accident supposedly happened.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I am with you. Like that, obviously we were saying that it was going on. It's like, this case really to me boils down to 2 things, and that's the injuries and them explaining to me how a SUV hitting him could cause those injuries. Like the rest of it's all kind of fucking noise to me, man. Like I agree with Allie. I was watching y'all on Replay Crew yesterday, what I missed. And, like she had made the comment when Whiffen was on that, like, that she kind of wishes that they quit leaning into the search. I don't know that the search means shit in terms of, was he hit by the vehicle? Like, because, and I said it yesterday before I was done. Either the medical examiner is going to be able to convince me and the rest of us that he was hit by a vehicle, or she isn't. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, that's all that matters. It's like all of the rest of the things are like square pegs being, jammed into round holes in terms of the defenses theory and the Commonwealth's theory. They have theories. Like we heard the fakakta theory that this dude had yesterday about he was waving hi, Karen. Karen, here's my drink. He's like Julian from, Trailer Park Boys, always has his drink in his hand, like every scene and it's like, and like, that's implausible. That is not what happened. Like whatever theory they have, that ain't what actually happened. Because that was the worst theory I've heard. And I didn't hear the direct where, he's launched after bouncing off the curb.
It's insane. It makes no sense. And if people, the reporting that from the people inside the courtroom is correct, and that the jurors are almost audibly laughing at some of the stuff that came out, how can you ever find her guilty if that's the expert that's trying to tell you, the jury? And that would be the closing, right? This is the guy that's trying to tell you how this happened, and he can't explain like the basic physics, and he can't explain how the taillight broke or scratched him. Makes no sense.
No sense.
It would make sense, a little more sense maybe if the taillight hit his skull because it's like a hard ball, but like it hit his arm somehow and that broke, or it's the glass that I just don't I still don't understand what the theory is. Like it's
because you can't understand it because it made no goddamn sense. There's no way to make sense of that theory, and it was like I was just stunned by. Like I said, man, I had a night to sleep on it, and it still remains the most brutal cross of an expert that I've ever seen in any capacity. And I've seen bad witnesses before. I've seen witnesses that, come with some bullshit, but at least they try to I mean, this guy just didn't have like the basic knowledge that would be required to do that job in a way that he could articulate it to a jury. Because again, all that it's about is that jury finding witnesses to be credible. And if this guy can't answer basic physics questions and what the fuck kinetic energy is, and I mean,
Shannon had a good analogy. She's like, it's like he had Chat GPT write the report, but then he had to explain it and he just couldn't do it. Like he had someone else write this report for him or something, and then for him, like there's a difference between like just putting something on paper and then having to explain it. Like I mean, we've all been there in school. Like I made this like analogy where like you kind of write a report the last day, or you didn't really write, you're not prepared.
Wing it.
And then you have to present it, but then and it sounds okay, kind of maybe a little bit when you're presenting, but then the teacher starts asking you questions, and it's like, wow, this guy
all falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like. It was just like
the house of cards comes tumbling down, man. As soon as they start digging in, yeah. I mean, that's a great analogy because it does seem like that. It seems like he put in like, how can I tell if a man was hit by an SUV and there's a cracked taillight? So like how does that happen? And the Chat GPT throws some shit out there, and it's a bunch of gobbledygook, and it's like a work of fiction. I don't know how they recover. I honestly don't. And if the fact of the matter is that Karen hit him, it's a goddamn shame. It's a goddamn shame. It's like I've seen no evidence whatsoever that she meant to hit him. Like this, like I've said this multiple times. Second degree murder is off the table for me. That is not something that I'm contemplating. I don't think that that's a thing. Could she have hit him? So the question becomes, if she did hit him, did she know? Right. So like, because that becomes a different analysis. If she hit him and was aware, well, maybe I just clip him? Like she's like, thump, and she's like, what? Did I just hit something? And like she leaves, and then she calls him 52 times. He's not answering. It's like, does the crime then become that she knew she hit him and she left him to die? Like I have to think that like I don't give a shit what was going on like the days preceding. Nothing would precipitate that her, if she had hit him, that she would have just left him there. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, right, no matter, like, dude, I've been in like knockdown dragouts with my wife. and Allie ain't taking no shit. You know what I'm saying? Like this is you can imagine what kind of like just Armageddon like battles we've had, like we're just like neither one of us gives any ground and we're both loud fucking people. The kids are screaming, like we're just a loud house. and she's like, like even under that, and if like I got out of the car pissed off, and like if Allie, even if she was infuriated with me, if she accidentally hit me, there's no way she's leaving me to die. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of shit. Totally. I don't know. I'm just having a really hard time. I'm really, really having a hard time coming up with that because there's a different thing between not guilty and being innocent. Like, let's be clear about that. Like, like I think based on what I've seen, and we're coming down to the end of this thing, there's no way they're going to find her guilty of anything. That's what my gut is. Now, maybe the ME changes my mind. I'm still going to reserve that final call. But I mean, where I'm sitting right now, it's a NG all day. That does not mean that she's factually innocent. That means that the Commonwealth absolutely shit the bed presenting this case. That's what it means, which would be absolutely tragic for the O'Keefes, for them to, and in more tragic than that is that this was their best chance to actually find out what may have happened to John. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's sad. It's sad in a lot of different ways, and it's like we go through, we laugh, because there's funny shit going on in the trial. Like we're never laughing at the expense of someone's pain ever.
No, I'm sorry. Let me just say, if it's objectively funny when a witness on a hot mic says "kill me," I'm always gonna like that's just objectively funny. Like he's like, "Oh, just kill me." This is like, yeah,
well, yeah, dude, you see it all the time in court. Like they'll burst out laughing. It's a tense situation. I'm never going to apologize for us cracking why. If a witness sucks, a witness sucks. Sorry. That's
what we do. That's why our people are here. I think like they could watch it somewhere where they have no one, commentating or have different commentary.
Right.
I think that's why our folks are here. So, I don't think you should have to.
For sure. All right, let's see. Okay, what else we got, Jay? Oh, fuck, dude. I don't even have the shit up. Wow.
Don't worry, I have an eye on.
Okay, good. Thanks, buddy.
Well, I would just say, Bob, and for folks who maybe are new to, first of all, our channels or the stream, but like we've been on many times before, and I've hit on this some other days, but this is interesting because this is a voir dire. This is something that usually is done before. Like they're usually, and Bob always talks about those are the real battles. The real battles are, what happens before, because typically we wouldn't be seeing this. You never see it, or maybe sometimes you do, during a trial. But this is important. We are determining if the defense is going to get in experts that you want to use in the defense of Karen Read in their case. Like this is a massive. There's no jury, but this is going to be fascinating. And Allie pointed out, we're probably going to get a little spoilers for if they are allowed and then they testify. We're going to obviously know what they're going to testify to, but nonetheless, I just think this is a very interesting day that we get to see in the middle of a trial, a motion or a hearing where it's like the state is like, no, this should not be allowed in at all. The defense is like, no, we should allow. And now we're going to see live, real time, whether these experts that the defense want to use get in. And can you imagine? I assume the defense's ex-recon expert is much more qualified and will be able to explain much better. And just the contrast is going to be something else if they are allowed to.
I mean, Jay, it would hard not to be more qualified.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the lowest bar you could possibly set. And yeah, thank you for getting into that. So yeah, it's a huge day. And if you guys aren't aware, essentially what had happened, there was a late disclosure by the defense of a doctor named Claire Russell, who I think her primary background is she is emergency room doctor. So she sees a ton of emergency type injuries, including dog bites. So they presented her late. They disclosed her very late to the state. And Lally took exception to it. You know, he was claiming in his motion that the disclosure didn't take place until 6 weeks into trial. So that is a very late disclosure. I think that they did that in response to some evidence that had come out during trial. I was frankly surprised when they were arguing it that they weren't arguing that quite simply that she was a rebuttal witness, in terms of rebutting them, you know, in their theory, because they had a couple of people that weren't doctors talking about how they didn't think they were dog bite injuries. You know what I mean? So who was the jack of all trades? The guy who was the guy who knew a little bit about everything. That was Yuri Buknik, right? He kind of knew a little bit about everything. Yeah, they had him trying to testify on some of the injuries. And then as Jay was saying, you know, a couple of accident recon guys or gals, whatever the case may be. And the point of a voir dire is that you're able to question them to find out what they're going to say. And remember, the judge is the gatekeeper of the evidence, right? So they're doing this for the judge to be able to hear whether or not what this person is going to testify is going to be admissible for various different reasons. So, and we know because of the ruling on the federal investigation, and I believe that these two recon experts were used in the federal investigation. I think that she wants to hear what their expertise is. She wants to hear, you know, what they're going to be saying in terms of their opinions as to what happened. And same with the doctor. So yeah, they are unusual to have them happen in trials like it this level. Like we saw quite a bit in Murdoch, you know, but like typically it's basically just a thing to allow the judge to hear what would happen in front of the jury if you were to call the witness. It's like think of it as like a sneak preview of like when you go see trailers at the movies and you're like, Allison's like, God damn it, they showed the whole movie. You know, like I don't even want to see it now. And sometimes voir dires can be like that. Like there's a strong chance that we hear enough on these voir dires that we are not going to have anything interesting to watch when they're actually testifying because we've already heard all of it. So, I mean, that's a distinct possibility, but it'll make for an interesting day today.
Do you think it's going to really take a full day? Let's just say it's 4.
I don't think so,
that
dude.
Seems like a long,
I don't think so. Day. I honestly don't. I like, and I think that there's going to be a lot of, I think that there's going to be a lot of incentive to both sides to wrap this shit up today so they can have like kind of a half day.
Right.
You know, but especially leading into an off day tomorrow.
Right.
You know, especially if I'm Lally. I mean, is he going to drag this shit out? Or is he going to go try to prepare the only witness that can save his case, which is the ME?
Right.
You know, I mean, but like, I still can't figure out in what world an ME who is ruled that a death is undetermined is your linchpin. You know, it's like up until dude got on there, Trooper, what was it? Trooper Paul.
Yeah.
I have to admit, man, I am an empath. I really felt bad for that guy. Like he just like, and because I blame Lally. Like
yes,
Lally
absolutely.
Lally set him up for failure. You know, he should have known when he was prepping him. Like you prep a witness and it's your expert and he can't answer a goddamn fundamental question. You got to be like, hey, man, I got to ask you a serious question here. Are you up to this task? Are you up to the challenge right now? Like, can you do this? You know, and it's like that conversation obviously never took place.
Well, maybe it begs the question, Bob, and I brought this up yesterday. It begs the question, how many times has Lally or maybe attorneys in his office used this type of a witness that has taken 2 classes in cases that aren't high profile, that don't have a defendant who is able to afford Alan Jackson. Like, how many times has he used this guy and got convictions because maybe the defense attorney is a public defender who really doesn't understand like this. I begged that this is probably not the first time he's used them, and he might have got convictions just because he didn't have an Alan Jackson as a defense. Not everyone can afford an Alan Jackson. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Like 99% of the country can't afford an Alan Jackson.
right. So he
99%
might have
of
thought he was just going to
defendants. Yeah.
present this guy, and it was going to go like all his other cases, 190 other investigation this guy has done. Not that that means how many times he's called to trial, but you know,
Dude, no question. Like, yeah, and like I think I went on a log diatribe. I don't know if it was on one of our lives or one of a lie. Like, I don't know if it was one of our recap shows or whatever. But like, I mean, that's the fact of the legal system in this country is that most people can't afford a high-powered defense team. I mean, that's why you hear people saying, like the wealthy, it's skewed to the wealthy, and it is. There's no denying that. And it's not even necessarily about intelligence or the fact that, a lawyer knows more is necessarily better than a public defender. It's all about time. It's all about you're paying a lawyer for the time that they can just dedicate to your case. And when you have public defenders, they do not have that time to dedicate to your case. It's not, I'm sure you saw the tweets of Jackson sitting at restaurants all the time with Karen Reed prepping the case, his computer, like they're working the shit out of this case. And you only get that when you have private counsel. You're never going to get it with a public defender. So by way of that, you're just not going to get the kind of representation that you would get from private counsel from a public defender just because of the time element. I mean, you could have a brilliant PD, public defender, and still get your ass handed to you because they have not had the time to prepare because they have tons of other clients. They walk into a courtroom every morning and they have a stack of files this big, and all they are is names. You know what I'm saying? It's like they maybe they talk to their clients a few times, if it goes to trial. A lot of times it's always the number one complaint when we get clients that are like, oh, I had a PD, like, I don't think you believed in my case. It's like, I never heard from them. And I'd be like, well, don't take it personally. That's just, it's a time constraint thing. I mean, it's no excuse. I mean, the attorney certainly should have been, but it's just, it's the system's fucked up, man, in that sense, and you can see what time and money can put on in terms of a defense. I mean, if everybody could afford this, every case would be like this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it boils down to that thing that I'm always talking about. State wasn't there. The cops weren't there. The defense wasn't. This is all theories. It's all theories. And if you've got both sides and can come up with a good theory, this is what you get. And I don't even know how great the theory is of the defense at this point. Like I've been like, we're deep into it. I don't know that they proved to me that anything happened in that house.
Not me. I no, I don't. There's just no way. That's a
right.
But
yeah, I mean, like, dude, but that doesn't mean that I like, and I don't give a shit. My third theory, I think, is just as plausible as the two other theories. And I'm accepting the fact that in order, like, that they thought that they believed based on shit that she said that she hit him. That Commonwealth really thought she hit him. That they truly believe it. The Massachusetts State Police believe that she hit him, and Morrissey's like, you know what? Like, I think you're right, but here's the fucking problem: we don't have any evidence of it, and that leads us to. Is that my guy?
Hi, I looked behind me, like I saw him behind you, and then I looked behind me.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
So, I mean, that's my like. So that leads to the planting of the taillight. Because there's no explanation in either case of how that taillight has exploded all over the yard. Is there? Do you find
certainly
Trooper
not by the
Paul's explanation?
no. I don't believe.
Trooper Paul's explanation.
No, I don't believe. I don't. It makes no
I don't
sense
think
to
he
me.
gave an explanation.
Well, yeah, he
No,
said it
For
blew
how
into his arm and his
no, for
elbow
how
or
it got
shoulder.
all over the place, though. For
It
how
was
like
linear, babe. It was linear. It was a linear explosion of the tail light that happened starting at the fire hydrant. Or no, we're not counting that piece, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know.
By the
Jay,
way,
keep an eye.
well, I was just gonna say, I saw someone put in chat, and then I confirmed. It looks like I remember her saying this yesterday, but it looks like it's not starting until 9:30. So I got about 18 minutes.
Nelly.
I don't remember them saying that, or
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if there's any crew that can kill a half an hour, it's the three of us right here. So
maybe I should get off and let my hair dry.
Nope, nope. You stay on, looking all beauteous. What a little love bug. I missed you so much. Oasis Cat, new member. Are you like Oasis has been in the chat? I'm so surprised that you're just a new member. Thank you so much. I thought you were like you've been amazing in the chat, Oasis. So welcome and thank you so much for becoming a member. That's amazing. I love that.
Bob, we should probably talk about. I was going to say at some point we don't have to do it right now, but like we both have some shows tonight. So
yeah, let's talk about yours.
So yeah, tonight at 7:30 Eastern time, Shannon will be joining me, as well as Raul Catchlist, who I believe is in chat. I don't know if he's still here, and Kerry Rawson. Tonight at 7:30, we're going to talk about this ridiculous press conference that John Ray had regarding Rex Sherman's family. So we hope you can join us at 7:30.
Babe, did you hear about it?
What?
This press conference? Yeah.
I did.
I hadn't, so it was all.
Yeah, it was. I actually on the flight, because I paid for internet, I watched the presser.
Wow. I was relating
like,
it to
what is he hoping to accomplish with that shit? Muddying the waters of justice.
I think to get in the line, like to be in the limelight more. Is he already super famous? I mean, I don't know.
Super famous? No,
I mean, like high profile.
Maybe in that area, he's like I know of him because I follow the case. He always wears a fedora. That's kind of his like his trademark thing.
Yeah, and he always has like a a very like a suit and tie. Like he's always very like
he's like a dude who would wear a seersucker suit. You know what I mean? He's like me with my boots.
What does that mean, a seersucker suit? I've never heard of this thing you speak of.
Wow, mom's never heard of a seersucker, Jay.
I don't have any. I've heard of it. I don't know what it means though.
Oh my god, it's just a style of suit that they used to wear like down in the South. Oh, Michael Hayes coming in hot with a $20.
Oh, me too, Michael.
Coffee
thank you so
for
much.
Jay and Bob. Thank you so much, Michael Hayes. We love you, man. Joanne Jedi Platypus gifting 1 DD membership. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, so
he's going to cover that first, and I was saying like because I was late to the game with American Nightmare that it like reminds me of that.
I want to hear more of what you guys are going to dig into, Jay.
Well, we're going to dig it. First of all, Raul's in here, and I've said this a million. There's no one better to get the details and a stronger advocate for victims than Raul. So first of all, from Raul,
that ain't no lie.
Right, he's going to just introduce everyone to kind of like the players involved, and he has been upset. I've never seen Raul so upset. He went on live and did his own thing on his channel, which he very rarely does, his own channel, and it was a beautiful thing. He's Raul speaks from the heart.
He's all heart.
He is, and
his shit's right on his sleeve. And he's like cut from the same cloth as we are. Like we're definitely hard on our sleeve, guys. And Raul, yeah, dude, the amount of empathy that he just oozes and just how much work he puts in to being a true advocate is like
so much work into it.
I love him.
He came on, did his show, but now he's going to come on with us and he's going to explain. And also, we're going to get from Kerry Rawson. Literally, I was thinking, like, how many people in the world can give a perspective regarding this case better than Kerry Rawson can? For folks who don't know, she was the daughter of BTK, completely had no idea, just like it appears that Herman did. And how this like fucks with this is gonna fuck with their life, this press conference that like some of these news outlets are running with, or people are running with, as if it's like a valid thing that she was like on Tumblr, on Tumblr in 2015 and liked, or it didn't even like, or followed an account that may have posted a weird picture of a corpse with the shoe off relating to a murder that happened in 1993 when Victoria was 4 or 7. It's insane. And you know, Carrie is still dealing with shit. Carrie, and you talked about how crime got, how they just, it's like they run her around, but like she's got to deal with this shit all the time, every day. I feel so bad. She's such a strong woman to have to deal with this because people are just always coming at her. And you know, and she said, and I appreciate it, like that, like we're gonna give her like a space. She knows us and she knows our crews. She knows our people. We're gonna give her a safe space to tell her story and tell how this kind of fucks with your life. If like, you know, she had nothing to do with it, but her life is being fucked with all the time, and it's awful.
My God. I've said it before about Carrie. I'm like, I personally don't know anyone personally that has suffered more trauma than she has. And to be willing to talk about it, like she'll call me on shit. Like and I got no problem with it, to be honest with you. Like we did for our Lisk thing, you know, the moniker for him is the ogre. And we, like, Mandy, I think, used AI to make it, and it popped out like a Trekkie looking ogre. And Carrie's like, this is fucking bullshit. It's like, you know, don't make them into monsters. And I appreciate, because I can't have an opinion on that because my dad didn't do that kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Right. So she's saying like he's not a monster. He's a real person who is an animal.
Right.
And I think you know, her point is like when we make them out to be these monsters, we miss them in hindsight, in sight. What's the word I'm looking for? We miss them like in our lives because we're making them out to be. But really, like she grew up with this dad who was just like like just a regular dad that brought her up, took her to stuff, and like you know, behind the scenes, she had no idea what was going on. And so I can't wait to just get both their perspectives.
Yeah, no, and I love Carrie, you know, and it's like I immediately pulled that shit down, you know, because naturally she's right. You know what I mean? It's like I had no horse in the race, you know, because like my thing is to, you know, I try to really respect everyone, but especially victims. And I've said it, anyone listens to this, which they should, and you have an idea, like I talk about, especially in the Garcia season, where, you know, it's a different type of victim, but, you know, the families of these killers are absolutely victims. Like Allison, like, did your heart, like my heart was just broken for Estella and Fred Garcia. Like you could see they were fucking destroyed. Yeah, I mean, dude, like just destroyed. It's a much different type of victim, but it's a victim nonetheless. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole thing's just sad all around. But yeah.
And then you have a show,
great show, man.
And you have one coming up after that. We'll tell the folks about your show.
I do. So we're like my boy Bill Dorsch, former Chicago homicide detective, amazing guy, been digging into Gacy for years, but also he is the whistleblower of this guy Ronaldo Guevara, which I've talked about a few times, which hasn't become the story that it's going to become yet, but he is without question the most corrupt piece of shit cop that has ever walked the streets of any town in America. This guy literally was using all of his confidential informants, and you get CIs you bust a kid on some shit, right? You know, you get him on a slinging drugs. Say, all right, well, you know, I got you with some weight. You can either, you know, do 3 to 5 years in the pen, or you can work for me. You can be my eyes and ears on the street, you know? And that's how they typically will gather up confidential informants. They're rats. They're snitches, you know? I mean, they're out on the streets. They're the boots on the ground. So when they get him, he's then using all his CIs to close cold case murder cases. So he proceeds to close 51 cold case murder cases using CIs, where every single person that he had his CIs point to and identify was innocent.
Like
Like
they had
actually
nothing to do with it.
innocent.
Right.
Holy
So
shit.
And it's not a big story like worldwide, but it's clearly
It's
a
gonna
very
be.
big story in, well, I'm just saying in Illinois and in Chicago.
It's
I mean,
like he is the most corrupt piece of shit that I've ever heard. I've never heard of a worse cop.
well, they've
Like, and
got
I've
a
heard of some
couple
bad
of
cops.
they've got him, and then they've got the guys on from a different
Burge. Yeah, John
right.
Burge. Different though. They were beating. They were like, which is
Well, they're doing all the things.
I
but
think this is
starting with
even a
beating.
little more. Well, they were really beating them. They were
But
torturing.
they were also they did that, but they also beat people, coerced people into fingering the wrong person to close cases.
Oh.
And it all started, the massive beatings and the electrifying started when a cop was killed. And this is the kind of thing that happens when a cop gets killed. All rules are out the window. They're planting evidence. They're making up. They're having people just write ridiculous statements and then testify to them. I mean, that is all real. It happens, and it's, it's a big part of what Chicago has deemed the culture of corruption between these two cops and the people in their crew and others like it.
And Guevara was like probably about 15 years after the Burge crew. And he was but like it just to kind of like 40 plus have been fully exonerated. Like just so you have an idea that this is not, and I'm talking, this isn't some shit that got figured out in a year.
Oh,
these are guys that did 15, 20-year bids on some bullshit. Chicago's paying out $20 million a pop. Bill Dorsch was the whistleblower. Like he was the cop. He had to move to an undisclosed location in Europe, and this is no bullshit, because they were threatening his life.
Holy shit! I didn't know that's why he was in Europe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's like they chased him out of the country. Dude, he was ratting on it. It was so bad with Guevara that the Cook County State's attorney said, we are no longer going to take up these cases. We're not going to try to defend them anymore. We refuse to. Like, because typically you'll have the state's attorney's office.
They're still defending
their cops. And what'd you say, babe?
They're still defending some of them. I'm dealing with
Guevara, maybe Burge, not Guevara.
Well, by being like down the line, like if it's not him directly, but it's a person it's like they're.
I just saw they just paid out the highest $50 million yesterday on a Burge case. Four young black kids who were arrested, convicted on some Burge bullshit. Just got paid out. I think it was yesterday, $50 million.
That's the appeal case that I'm working on, are people who were trained and in the Burge era, because it's not just them, it's all the officers that they work with.
$10 for hair. She's trying to pay you for your hair routine.
She's seeing it right now. This is from Wet. Just sit up, mess
Jay
with it.
can share his too. Wait, does Jay have a hair routine?
No. It's take a shower. That's my hair routine.
Bob does. He's got a whole facial routine, hair routine, beard routine.
Yeah, I try to keep my beard. I didn't put my beard shit on today. I was running.
Oh, we can all tell. I think you should fix it.
My hair is.
You laughed. Bob wasn't sure. He's like, wait, is she for real?
So and then Bill's gonna get into a little of the Guevara shit, and then and if you aren't following, my first season was on Gacy. My dad was his lawyer, blah 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 blah. Amazing season. You should check it out 100%. But Bill and I are actively advocating where we believe that we know where additional victims of Gacy are buried, and we are actively working to give families closure. And it's like Bill's out of town, which is tough, but we've got 3 locations that we believe that there's additional Gacy victims. And I've said it before, I don't think it matters how long has passed. I think every family deserves some semblance of closure, deserves to know what happened to their sons. So, and that's what we're going to do. So, and Bill's had a few health issues, which he's going to be going through. Like we've taken a little bit of a break. So he's had some stuff going on.
And before, first of all, I gotta thank Deja, our wonderful mod, who just sent me a $10 cash app. Thank you. And before I go live and before Bob goes live, Steve Publicly Buzz is doing his murder church at 6 today. So we got you guys
What?
set. We got you 6, me, Steve, then me, then Bob. We got your night set.
Wow.
And then you got a big Friday thing, possibly. Is it still possibly?
Who am I think?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be. I definitely have Afi, the Black Letter Law on.
I love Afi.
She's awesome. She's coming on, and I'm just confirming. Katie Bogenschutz, I just have to confirm with her. She should be good. We'll see. Definitely Afi, but we're going to talk about what went down in Young Thug on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, just because it's it's
Afi's
insanity.
Great. I love Afi.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's great.
Yeah, if you guys missed Young Thug, Young Thug's attorney got sent to jail.
Again?
No. That's kind of what we go over. I think the witness is still on the stand, but he has yesterday. I think he did file.
Still on the stand?
Yeah, that guy's still on the stand. And
still on the stand.
He's still, yeah, Lil Woody. And yesterday, Young Thug's attorney Brian Steele did file a motion for the judge to recuse himself, and that's in addition to I think at least 1 to 2 other attorneys who have also filed those motions. So those are pending. The judge just denies them, so I don't know how it works exactly, but it's insanity.
Well, it sounds like if they meet the judge is supposed to look at it as though it's accept everything in there as true, and if it lays the basis for the requiring recusal, then I think send it to a different judge to consider the actual motion. But he gets to make that first determination as to whether, if everything in here is true, does it require, does it have merit? And if so, then another judge has to hear it. At least that's what I gathered from I didn't read the entire motion. I kind of skimmed the first one that was filed.
Bob said that John Ray wears seersucker or would wear a seersucker suit. That's how that came up. Why?
Once he said it was a Southern suit, I figured out what he meant.
Everyone is now, Bob, because of your everyone is adding Shannon about seersucker suits right now.
I mean,
she's like
know immediately because she's
what it is?
knowledgeable about.
She said, "Oh yeah," and looked at me like I'm insane for not knowing.
Right. I mean,
we get it now. As soon as you said it was like a Southern lawyer would wear it.
What is this?
No, I don't know what seersucker.
Is this are you talking about the royal we?
Your parents live in the Hamptons. Like that's a prime seersucker place.
I don't know what a seersucker suit is. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's apparently a fabric. I'm getting you guys. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I'm getting lectured.
Now it's like a Southern lawyer's suit. Once he says that, then you know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's like some shit Matlock would wear.
That's someone added me. I think actually Hayes, who sent us the
and Allie, her whole desire to be a defense attorney was born out of watching Matlock. So.
No, it was before.
It's incredibly sad that you don't know what a seersucker suit is.
Well, now I do. Once you said it was a Southern suit, then I got it. But no, I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, Mike Hayes, who sent us the Venmo, said added Shannon and then please explain, then added me that Matlock wore a seersucker. So there you go. And I just got a $20 Venmo from Megan P. It said, Meg P. Fund in case you need to drive into the ocean. Thank you, Megan. Make sure you have yours on, Bob, in case you're getting.
Yeah, I don't get the notifications. I do get the occasional. Nope, just Michael Hayes, my only guy. Wait, I don't know. I think I gave a shout out to Jennifer A yesterday, who sent a tasty $25 Venmo.
I did, but I gave her last name. Yes,
I think I never know by accident. I think I did too.
I don't think anybody's finding anybody from a first.
Well, Liz, thank you for that $10 holla. And Maria Picard, hey, Allie, is a fellow Northerner. Go Birds! Can I get your take on the old versus new Mac and Manco pizza?
I think that's outside of my my time frame.
What are you trying to say? I just
wasn't a big pizza. I'm not sure which if that's in like South Philly or where that is. If they just asked me about a cheesesteak or something, then
we could talk about some steaks. Well, I'm going to tell you, like I don't know if this is like a Philly. Yeah, your sister would know. Well, Lauren. I don't know if this is a Philly thing or if it's like an East Coast thing, but that white pizza shit can fuck right off. Like I
like
don't
it
ever
sometimes.
want pizza without a marinara sauce. It's like that's like bread with like melted cheese on it, and it's not good to me.
Like
I
a garlic and
people are like, oh,
tomatoes and
the white pizza. Have you had the white pizza? I'm like, there's no marinara on there, man. I don't want any part of that. It's disgusting. Like I feel like Jay. My view on white pizza is Jay's view to everything. He hates it. So you know, it's like I can't. I tried it like multiple places. I'm like, it's flavorless. It tastes like mozzarella melted on a crust with some garlic. No, thank you.
By the way, Meg P is sending. She also sent. It was what I read was our wonderful mom, Meg P. She said she sent you one too, Bob. So make sure.
Oh, I did get it. Meg P, we love you. Paid. Glad to have Bobby back in the house. Thank you, baby. So happy to be back. I was telling everybody how much I missed you, love. That was like a long roll, man.
I was.
That was
I
like
know
6
that.
days, dude.
I don't know that we've been. I say that we haven't been away from each other that long, except I keep forgetting that I'm usually the one taking that trip up. But you keep forgetting that other years you've come late. You've been there. It was like only last year that you weren't there at all.
No, that's not true. I have not been down the shore for
lies.
No, not lies, truths. Like the last time I was there was after we came back from Arizona pandemic when we hit the beach that one year. That was the last time. Last time I'd been there.
You came late and we stayed court, like all the kids were with us.
That was that time. That was the time.
I'm hearing it, Bob. I'm hearing court.
Oh, Jay's hearing it. All right, hold on.
All right, I got to leave you guys at like between 10 and 10:30 for I've got an in-person hearing.
Jay, put it up until I can find it because I'm still seeing this other bullshit. Like I'm seeing there's a commercial. Like it's not the live. Let me try.
Wow, babe.
All of the witnesses here, Mr. Jackson?
They are, Your Honor.
I'd like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Are you both prepared to?
No, I'm so sorry. I could not hear you.
I would like to hear from Dr. Russell first.
Oh, I got it.
Is that her name?
But just keep it up, Jay.
The order would be I propose based on scheduling Dr. Russell, Dr. Wolf, Dr. Rachel.
Okay, then that's good because that's the order I prefer. So, all right.
That's interesting. This is going to be
for her. Good morning.
Telling us.
Paula Baxter with the $10
CV I could look at for her.
Paula. We appreciate you so much.
That the judge is requesting the doctor first. Interesting.
Yes, I do.
And she has not written a report?
I've not watched the new Gacy movie on Paramount Plus.
All right. All right, let's bring her in, please.
If they didn't use the information on my podcast, it's not worth a shit.
I'll
tell you that right now.
An understanding. We started to say it at sidebar the other day, and you said you wanted to put that off to get to the witnesses. But I need a little bit of an understanding of what the court's expectations are. My understanding of voir dire, which this seems unusual in terms of the timing of it.
So the understanding of the voir dire is this is for the Commonwealth's motion to exclude this testimony. All right, that's what we're here for, the Rule 14 violation.
Is that the same with Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rachel?
Well, I thought that would help both of you. The Commonwealth has nothing on that, and you say you haven't been able to even talk to them at all about this case.
That's correct.
So I want to find out if they have any credible, competent evidence to put forward. So we'll have a voir dire on them as well. But for Dr. Russell, what we're doing here today is there's an alleged there appears to me to be a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of defense counsel regarding Dr. Russell. So let's hear from her today to see what the appropriate remedy is for this violation.
So
I thought this was the remedy.
Is to ask her so I have, the court understands my sort of guardrails. My intention is to ask her what her qualifications are, which is that's the basis for voir dire. And that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not intending to ask her what her opinions are, conclusions. I'm going to ask her if she's come to opinions and conclusions, but I don't want to have to examine her concerning her full opinions or full conclusions, what she's based those conclusions on. It's unfair. We've provided the defense everything that the prosecution, everything that we need to provide to them in terms of disclosure. They've got the equivalent of a report. They've got a summary of what she's going to testify to.
When was that provided? My order was 1 week from the start of trial, right?
But we didn't, Your Honor, in fairness, they didn't even finish their discovery 1 week before the start of trial. So it's a little unfair for us to be put on the
1 week from the filing of the certificate of compliance.
completion.
Well, I don't know when there's, I can't remember. My co-counsel indication is the day before trial.
Okay.
So during the course of, the trial is a dynamic thing. During the course of the trial, I did not know who Dr. Marie Russell was at the time that they filed their certificate of compliance. We then attempted to, and did, give them the reciprocal discovery that we were obligated to do after they filed their certificate of compliance.
When?
Within 3 days of that. We had been giving them information prior to that, but at least within 3 days of that. We've continued, so the record's clear, we've continued to get additional discovery from the Commonwealth in notices of discovery throughout the trial. They have not finished. In fact, during the trial, they interviewed Jen McCabe, apparently, had a full interview with her. Lieutenant Tully took a report, dated the report, and then they held on to that report until after she testified. The interview, the report, and the completion of the report were all done before her testimony.
Do you need to call her again?
Your Honor, that's not what, and I think the court understands, that's not my point. My point is not, I need to call Jennifer McCabe. I've done the damage that needs to be done on Jennifer McCabe. The point is.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You've what?
I've done the damage that needed to be done on Jennifer McCabe. I don't need to call her back. The point is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The Commonwealth doesn't get to stand in the position of piecemealing and feeding us information, reports, discovery throughout the course of the trial. And by the way, when we then got seminal information about an expert that we did not know about, never met, never heard of, within 3 days of that, we provide everything that we have about that witness to the Commonwealth. They can't then turn around and say, oh, well, it's all the defense's fault. So we want to have a voir dire, which means that the euphemism for that voir dire is we want to have two bites at the apple. We want to be able to completely cross-examine her, then go back to our expert. And if she testifies, cross-examine her again after consulting with our expert. That's 2 bites at the apple, and that's not fair. If the court wants to hear whether or not Dr. Marie Russell is qualified to testify about the arm injuries, that, I believe, is the parameters, the proper parameters of the voir dire, and that's what I'm prepared to do today. But I wasn't planning on getting into the substance of her testimony because that's been provided. And I don't think Mr. Lally should be able to get into the substance of her testimony because he knows what the substance is because, like I said, that's been provided.
All right, so I disagree. I'm going to hear from the Commonwealth on this. So Ms. McLaughlin or Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, just briefly in regard to what counsel was referencing with Ms. McCabe, it was not a full interview by Lieutenant Tully. It was and I don't have it on me at this moment, but I can give the court a copy of that report. But essentially it was Ms. McCabe met with Lieutenant Tully, looked at some video, and was asked a single question. That report wasn't available. I didn't have it until after Ms. McCabe testified, but it was given to counsel prior to Lieutenant Tully testifying, and there were no questions asked of Lieutenant Tully in regard to that. My issue, and I wasn't asking for a voir dire as it relates to Dr. Russell, is that we first heard of Dr. Russell on May 21st, which was, I think, 6 weeks into trial.
Right, so that's what I asked, and you told me it was 3 days after the beginning of trial, Mr. Jackson.
No, I said I said this to sidebar the other day, and I just said it again today. I let the Commonwealth and the court know about Dr. Marie Russell 3 days after I learned about her, which was the 17th of May. I think it was the 17th of May. I had never heard of her. I didn't know who she was. We made contact. I determined that she would be useful for the jury in terms of specifically the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm. I then had one conversation with her, then immediately, within 3 days of that, turned that information over to the prosecution. So I didn't say that I gave this over 3 days into trial. That's not what I said.
All right, but you were ordered to do it. Ms. Giannetti, what was the date? What, you had 1 week from when?
The day before trial. So it would have been, I believe, April 15th. So what we knew as of that day, we were required to turn over.
All right, I need to take a quick recess.
What? All right.
Let me just. Bob, you're muted, by the way.
So I have to say, this is why I was worried about them trying to get rid of Trooper Paul's thing. I thought they should just let it go because it was for shit, and he actually said in voir dire that it could have made a crack to the tail light, but it wouldn't have created the damage that was there. I was kind of worried about them pushing to exclude his thing because they still didn't have a commitment from the judge that their experts were getting in. So,
wait, what the hell?
Man, she got off the bench with quickness.
Hold on,
Back on the bench.
she came
She
back.
had to go get her. She had to go get her book.
Her notes.
No, her book. She's got the book.
I thought that was like a break.
No, she went to go get her book from Chambers.
By the way, check your PayPal. I got one from Spitfire Dragon. Hi, Jay. It's the Spitfire Dragon. I watched Raul's live the other night on replay and was touched to see how supportive you were in the comments. You like to joke about being an asshole, but you aren't. Thanks for being a good egg. And tell Bob to check his PayPal.
No,
thank you, Spitfire Dragon.
Jay is anything but an asshole. Dude, sweet.
Asshole.
I'm a little bit of an asshole.
What a jerk off.
I'm like,
so I had some Venmos flow in.
All right. Let's hear from the judge here. She's about to talk.
Every time I try to thank people, Allison cuts me off.
All right, she's not talking. Go ahead.
Okay. JR in chat saying $20 Venmo. Thank you, JR. Saying thanks for all you do for your neighbor in Wheaton. What's up, homie?
Nice.
Love that. Because we're going to be doing some meetups in Chicago in the very, very near future for all our Chicago viewers, listeners of the pod, all that stuff.
Jim.
Dawn L paid 5.
Wait.
I'm pausing it. I'm pausing it. Go ahead, Bob.
Let me get these out real quick, babe.
All right.
Thanks for great coverage. It's important to thank the people.
I understand, but I just, we're
and Robin B paid you $5. Hey, Bob and Allie, what is your podcast or the podcast True Crime Podcast Festival discount code in Denver? I put it for the mods to pin it. It's Defense 15. If you're attending or thinking about attending, make sure you use that code. It gets you 15% off the ticket price. So it's a nice discount, and it lets Lainey know that y'all are coming because we're one of the reasons you guys are coming. So it helps the show out big time. So but yeah, and we hope that we get a great crowd out there. That's a great podcast festival. If
you got Oswego, AJ.
I love it.
We almost moved to Oswego, and he said just down the road.
Oh man, yeah, we almost did. We put an offer in a house when we moved out here in Oswego,
and then we were like, "It's just."
But y'all are too far from the expressway.
A little further, right? We're already so far,
but super close to the expressway,
and has more to offer than our town, really.
Where are you thinking, Kai? Where are you thinking? Give me a locale. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily do it in Chicago proper. But I'm going to do a few of them.
Kids. Oh, can we do it? I get it. Sorry.
Wow.
I thought she's like moving. Where should I move?
Fire it up. Let's go. People want to hear what's happening.
The Commonwealth's motion, the Commonwealth's renewed motion.
She shut it down. She knows what happened yesterday on that hot mic.
Exclude. All right, so the Commonwealth has moved that I exclude the testimony of Dr. Russell.
I honestly thought this was the remedy.
Based on a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of the defense. So I do find that there is a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of Rule 14. And I'm quoting from the notes, the importance of this, the reporter's notes to the old rule. And as you all know, we're in the process of updating that rule, but the very integrity of the judicial system and public confidence in the system depend on full disclosure of all the facts within the framework of the rules of evidence. To ensure that justice is done, it is imperative to the function of courts that compulsory process be available for the production of evidence needed either by the prosecution or the defense. So, what we're here to do today is decide a remedy for this violation. And that's why we're having a voir dire. I am not prohibiting the Commonwealth from anything on their examination of witness, Mr. Jackson.
Wait,
The
rewind
alternative
this one
is
little blip.
she doesn't testify. Of voir dire. I am a remedy for this violation.
Okay.
And that's why we're having a voir dire. I am not prohibiting the Commonwealth from anything on their examination of witness, Mr. Jackson. The alternative is she doesn't testify. So the Commonwealth has not received the appropriate discovery from this witness. So we're going to have a voir dire and they can ask her anything that they think they need to ask her. So those are the parameters of this morning.
As long as I know the guardrails, that's fine. I just to close the loop on the record, my understanding, and this little can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler, F-A-L-L-E-R.
Okay.
If the court remembers, is buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses. So he testified to alcohol levels, et cetera, and protocols at the institution at Good Samaritan. And we didn't have that information either. We didn't throw a fit. They said we were going to provide this information in a timely fashion as soon as we know that we're going to call him. He's got to be on our witness list. We didn't know one way or the other what he was going to say. We didn't have a report, and we went on about our business. That's what we were doing as well. And by the way, I would note that the notes and the report under Rule 14 require disclosure of information you have. I just don't want the court to think that we were sitting on information that we didn't turn over.
I'm not saying that. It's just, this isn't as if it was something that the Commonwealth brought up and you needed to scramble. This is entirely of the defense position.
Right.
So
that's true as well.
All right. So that's the big difference. So why don't you go ahead and call her?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
So at least,
yes.
At least the judge has clarified, which is what I thought going in. This is the remedy for what she believes to be. Because at first she was like, we're still here on their motion and I'm trying to decide the remedy. And I was like,
right.
Wait,
so,
what?
Just to clarify it a little more, she found that there was a violation, which there was. Like this isn't bias, guys. This is like there are rules that have to be followed by both sides in with respect to reciprocal discovery. They don't want to have trials by ambush, meaning that you can just put whoever the hell you want on the stand. You have to give notice to the other side. They gave it late. She is being very reasonable. Instead of barring them from putting her on, they're allowing the Commonwealth to grill the shit out of her.
I have to think about that a little bit to see if I agree that a full
I think it's fair.
cross.
We will agree to disagree. If you
I haven't said that I disagree.
Okay, but even if you do, we will agree to disagree. I think it's a reasonable compromise. Jury's not here. Who gives a shit?
See, you can't pause now because you had Jay
keep your voice up, speak right into that microphone, doctor, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Marie Russell, Russell.
And I'm going to echo what the court just indicated. The air conditioners are on, so please keep your voice as elevated as possible and maneuver the microphone however you need to, okay?
Okay.
Dr. Russell, what do you do for a living?
I am a retired emergency physician and forensic pathologist.
And tell me what education you have, going all the way back to the beginning, that qualifies you as an emergency physician and former pathologist before you retired.
Okay, well, I've had about at least 16 years of formal education beyond high school. Initially, I started at MIT, where I did my pre-med courses. I had always wanted to be a physician. And so I went to MIT for a year, took pre-med courses. And then I had an unusual life event in that my mother came down with cancer, and she subsequently passed away. During the time away, so I took some time off from school. During that period of time, I decided to explore another interest of mine, which was law enforcement. And so I took some courses in law enforcement, and I became a full-time police officer here in Massachusetts.
What years were you at MIT?
That was 1972 to 1974.
Did you go to the police academy?
I did. Once I became a police officer here in Massachusetts, I attended the Boston Police Academy where I graduated.
What year was that?
That was in 1977.
During the course of your training as a police officer, did you have any specialized training in hit and run and accidents and investigations?
Yes, I did.
And which agency did you work for as a sworn peace officer?
I worked for the city of Malden full-time for 7 years.
That would be from 1977 to 1984, approximately?
Correct.
During that time, did you continue your education in any way?
I did. So I took as many courses as I could from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council, which included a several-day course in hit and run accident investigation. I took courses in forensic photography and numerous other things. And then, and I also at the same time continued to go to college. And I did that part-time, where I eventually got a bachelor's degree of science in psychology with highest honors.
What institution was that from?
That was from Northeastern University.
And that was a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology?
I think it was a Bachelor of Science.
Got it. Subsequent to your Bachelor of Science degree from Northeastern, did you also advance your education further, formally?
Subsequent to, so yes, so I decided that I did want to pursue a medical career. And so I then attended medical school, University of Massachusetts Medical School full-time for 4 years.
Did you ultimately get a degree, an MD degree from UMass?
Yes, a Doctor of Medicine degree in 1987.
So you were there from 1983 to 1987, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you do a residency?
I did 2 residencies, actually. Most people do 1, but I did 2. I did, my first residency was a combined internship and residency for 4 years. And I did that in Los Angeles at Los Angeles County Medical Center, which is a very big trauma center and what I would consider the Bellevue of the West Coast. Very busy.
You say that just because of the volume at USC Medical Center?
That is correct.
Is it one of the busiest medical trauma centers in the country?
Yes.
You were there from 1987 to 1991, is that right?
Yes, I did my ER internship and residency during those years. Yes, there.
During that time, were you seeing patients?
Oh, yes.
You were treating patients?
Lots of them.
You were attending to patients?
I was a trainee, so I was seeing as many patients as we could. There was always a waiting room full of patients, and yeah, so I saw many patients during that time period.
Did you indicated a second residency? Tell me about that.
Okay, so I still realized I had an interest in forensics, and so I decided that I wanted to also train in forensic pathology. So I did a second residency in anatomic pathology, 2 years, followed by forensic pathology fellowship at the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office for 2 years.
And the years, if that's 4 years, that would be from 1991 to 1995, approximately?
That is correct.
Tell me what your experience was as a fellow at the Los Angeles Coroner's Office, Los Angeles County Coroner's Office.
Yes, well, it also was a very busy coroner's office. And so every day there would be cases. I probably did at least 2 cases a day, most days, and plus conferences. and educational opportunities. But the interesting thing about being a fellow is they try to give you a wide assortment of cases. So, for instance, I not only saw numerous victims of gunshot violence and stabbings, but I saw numerous victims of motor vehicle accidents and natural death, overdoses. And then if there was an unusual case, it usually went to the fellow, because the fellow was also being supervised. So,
did any of those unusual cases, and we'll get more into this in just a second, but did any of those unusual cases include animal attacks?
Yes.
Did you become a professor, an educator at any point?
Yes. So during my 29 years at LA County Hospital, during the last 25 of those, I was a assistant professor or an instructor, but mostly an assistant professor. And what that meant is that I was responsible for overseeing the care that was provided by the interns and residents. So when a patient would come in into the hospital, the emergency room, they were oftentimes usually seen by the intern or resident, and then I would go and subsequently see that patient also. So, and that was in addition to my own cases. So I'd see my cases and their cases.
And that was at LAUSC, correct?
That is correct. And
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
LAUSC, for those of us who are not necessarily familiar with it, is that associated with the University of Southern California Medical Center?
Yes.
That's the school, in other words, the site.
Yes. So it stands for Los Angeles County / University of Southern California Medical Center.
And that's where you were an assistant professor for the majority of the rest of your career.
Correct.
Were you also an assistant or an adjunct professor at Cal State Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay. For how long were you an adjunct professor there?
I believe that was 4 or 5 years. And I taught criminalistics, forensic medicine there.
As an attending physician in the ER, in other words, a supervising physician in the ER, can you tell us what some of your duties and responsibilities included, especially as it pertains to trauma? And then I'll get more specific in just a second.
Okay. Well, so I would oversee the care of all the patients that came in during a particular shift. And that would include medical patients and trauma patients. And as I mentioned, it was a very busy trauma center. So we had lots of trauma patients, including the types of violence I described earlier that I saw at the coroner's office, but lots of motor vehicle accident victims, because there was a highway there right nearby. There were a couple of highways, so a wide variety of accidents.
Did your supervision include assessing, diagnosing, and treating patients?
Correct.
In terms of the middle part of that, diagnosis, was part of your job to determine the cause of injuries, or to at least assess the cause of injuries?
Yes, and I took that on a little bit more because I was interested in the forensics aspect of the injuries.
The forensic aspect?
Yes.
Okay. During your time at LAUSC, even after you left the Los Angeles coroner's office as a fellow, did you continue to stay in contact with the coroner's office and have a relationship with the coroner's office as a supervising physician?
I continued to stay in contact with the coroner's office, and I used to attend their conferences as often as I could, not as a supervising physician, but as a physician and a graduate of their program.
During your tenure at LAUSC, did you ever become the director of any programs at LAUSC?
Yes.
Does that include the director of Center for Life Support Training?
Yes.
What years was that, if you remember?
I don't remember that.
Early 2000s, late 90s?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay.
And we would conduct lots of courses, including trauma, life support courses.
Did LAUSC incorporate a quality improvement program?
Yes.
Within their institution?
Yes.
Did you become a director of that as well?
Yes.
So you were director of Center for Life Support Training and director of LAUSC Medical Center Quality Improvement. Is that right?
The quality improvement was for the emergency department.
All
yes.
Right. And did you also become the director for jail medical services?
Yes.
What is the association between LAUSC and the very, very expansive jail system in Los Angeles County?
So LA County Hospital was unique in that they many, many years ago developed a jail, what they called a jail ward, which was a combined inpatient, outpatient, and ER. So there was a dedicated jail ER. And that has been in existence for probably about 70 years now. And patients that were placed under arrest by either LA sheriffs, LAPDs, California Highway Patrol, or any of the municipal agencies in the area, and I think there were about 70 or more municipal agencies, could bring their patients to the LA County jail ward where the patients would get treatment.
Ultimately, you became the director of that entire program, correct?
Yes.
Did you also work with the State Medical Board of California in any capacity?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
For about 7 years, I worked part-time for the California Medical Board as a physician assigned to one of their enforcement teams. And I did that 1 day a week, and I did my other job at the county hospital the other 40 hours a week.
So you didn't take off time from your duties as an ER physician, as an emergency physician. This was in addition to you being an emergency physician.
That is correct.
You hold the title of Chief Medical Executive for the California State Prison System, specifically at Corcoran.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I retired from LA County Hospital, and I went on to move on to the the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
And what year was that? Did you make that transition?
So 2018 is when I started for the state prison system.
Okay.
And I worked there for 5 years as director of their medical service in Corcoran.
I'm sorry. So for that prison within that system, you were the chief medical executive for the entire agency, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
For the entire prison.
Understood. Are you board certified in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Are you a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners?
Yes.
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
Yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes. Some people would say no.
More than a couple of publications.
Correct.
And peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes.
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
Yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
Did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article?
Yes.
Ultimately published?
Yes.
And ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
Correct.
Did you also author or co-author an article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Was that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes.
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
Dog bites, yes.
Dog bites.
Wow.
Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
Yes.
What about dog
Has
bites?
that been in both state and federal court?
Yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, an autopsy report, grand jury testimony from. There may be some other.
Based on
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You
Okay.
don't know of anything else
Okay.
that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else, Doctor,
The
besides
autopsy.
these?
Autopsy photographs, autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report, and the grand jury testimony.
Okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scortibello, correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
Yes.
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy,
Yes.
grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scortibello,
Yes.
photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt,
Oh, yes. Yes.
and autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy.
Yes. And photographs that were taken in the hospital. And I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
Yes.
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm. There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
And are the
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes
Okay.
in the shirt.
and on what do you base the opinion that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And there's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, you know, or the dog in this case, where the teeth are tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
This is all great, but she doesn't have a British accent, so I don't believe anything she's saying right now.
Exactly. She's full of shit.
She reminds me of Dr. Reimer, if people remember the lovely pathologist from the Murdoch trial. Very learned.
She's got a very impressive CV. What a life.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, for age and the struggles she had to go through to get there.
Being a cop.
Like your
female
mom,
cop in
she did a lot
70s.
of that. Your grandmom too, right?
Yeah. Sage
way-
finds her to be a bit of a braggart.
Doctor, I'm showing you a series of photographs.
I
Is
got
she
a 20.
joking?
I think she's serious. I got a $20 Venmo from Jason R. Dude, you make me laugh at work, laugh out loud at work every day. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Jason R. Thank you so much.
And this is where she actually has to
First, can you describe whether or not you
brag, I
recognize
guess.
what's depicted in that photograph? Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Is that part of what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What is that a photograph of?
So this is a photograph of the decedent's arm near the elbow. And do you want me to describe what it shows?
Just briefly.
Okay.
Of what
Yeah, and it shows wounds.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that that be marked as next in order.
All right, so for this voir dire, we'll have separate evidence, right? Is this an exhibit number in the trial already?
It has not been marked yet, so I'm fine with starting over, sort of for the purposes of what your process are.
So this will be a separate voir dire with separate exhibit, yes.
But I think
Hold on,
I want to move this along. This has been marked, but I think
hold on. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
This one of the three has already been marked, but if just for consistency, I'd rather mark it additionally for voir dire.
Need a separate record for the voir dire. There's no objection, Mr. Lally?
For purposes of this, no.
Okay. So we'll mark these now, but
May I approach?
yes.
Has previously been marked in the trial. I would ask that this be marked as the next in order for the voir dire.
But what I want is the exhibit number at the trial.
I'll get that for you.
Okay?
And we're live. I did the blip blips, Sally. I did the blip blips.
All right.
Good job, Jay.
19.
Thank you.
It's 19.
Okay?
Does anyone know
And is the third one also in evidence, you said?
how Alan Jackson, did she reach out to the defense? Like, how did they find out about
As soon
this?
as medical report is ready.
She's ready.
May I just establish the foundation?
Yes.
The
Probably
following
just
two
researching.
photographs that I just showed you, Doctor, do you recognize those?
Yes.
Did you also review those in terms of, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
Do they also appear to be different photographs of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes.
I would move for the admission of both of those, Your Honor, for purposes of voir dire.
There's been no objection to them, so they're in. They're already marked.
I just need to know which one's 2 and which one's 3. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay, that's. With court permission, may I publish
Yes.
Exhibit 2 for voir dire?
Yes.
Is this a photograph of of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes.
This is one of the several photographs that you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions.
Yes.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. There should be a laser pointer on the desk.
Okay.
Can you explain for the jurors what it is about the injuries that assisted you in coming to your opinion and conclusion that this is from an animal attack.
Okay, there's several patterns here. So for instance, let's look here, right near the elbow, the exterior part of the elbow. There's these two linear marks, which appear to be from upper teeth, and two punctures below those, which are superficial, meaning they didn't go very deep into the skin, but they appear from the lower teeth. So that's one pattern. There's another pattern close to the shoulder, which shows parallel marks, these two, and maybe a third one in the middle, parallel marks that are oriented at a certain angle. And these are superficial wounds, which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks, but
with what?
Nails from claw, yes.
All right.
We have some more here, similar from obviously different teeth involved or different claws, and then down here, closer to the wrist, we have an unusual pattern of at least 4 striations, the way I see it, at least 4 striations that I believe are caused from the teeth towards the front of the mouth, near the arch. It appears that there's an arch pattern here. So,
in a dog attack or in an animal attack, in your experience, let me take this one down. Let's cover the ground on the 3 exhibits that we've already marked. Can we take a look at exhibit 1? Is this just may I publish, Your Honor? Yes. I apologize. Is this just a close-up of the same injuries?
Yes.
And do these appear to be consistent with what you just testified to in terms of either teeth or claw marks, especially as it relates to the area closest to the elbow?
Yes.
All right. And then looking at exhibit 3. May I publish?
Yes.
Is this a close-up view of the area closer to the wrist that indicated those parallel, you used the word striations?
Yes.
All right, and these appear to be taken, attended to the autopsy as opposed to the other photograph, exhibit 2, that was taken in the hospital. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. And would the time difference account for the slight change in the nature of the wound?
It could.
Photograph of the wound, I guess?
It could, or a different technique, yes.
Okay. Let me take this down. Did you take into consideration the lack, in coming to your opinion and conclusion, the lack of other injuries, for instance, fractures, broken bones, or deep bruising, soft tissue injuries?
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, what else could have caused these wounds, before coming to my conclusion. And so I wanted to rule out other things, and there were no significant major bodily injuries that, outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, the arms. So yeah, so having seen hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars, I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay, and in terms of the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attended to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Oh boy.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Doctor,
me take you back to, you
Allie's
were talking
ready.
about
Doctor,
some,
sir.
police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of training what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the standard police academy at that time. And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts in their fields. And they were on a variety of subjects that are listed in, in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
There just for a minute, ma'am. Just Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. There, I don't, it was a long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if it was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
He's using
And I don't
him
mean
to
be
buff up
belittle this training whatsoever,
Trooper
but is it
Paul.
fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Oh, so
Probably, I would not. Yes, okay, probably. If
You don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
that is correct.
And am I correct in you indicated
Trooper
that
Paul's
you're board certified
rudimentary,
in
too.
emergency medicine? Is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And the last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
Last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What, about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And when was it that you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year,
she's already
2024.
decided this is
Yes.
the remedy.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes,
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
yes,
An autopsy report, is that correct?
yes,
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
yes,
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
yes,
Toxicology report, is that correct?
yes.
Then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Anything else?
yeah, hospital ER record.
Hospital ER records?
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
No,
Did you ask for anything else to review?
no,
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
well, I requested that that I focus in on the wound, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to
Oh,
say
that
that
you
you would
didn't
want to
look
look
at
at
the-
anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes,
Taillights.
And so, did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
no, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites. Is that right?
Yes,
Are those publicly available articles?
yes,
And in those articles that you wrote, you were talking about law enforcement bites, correct?
Yes.
So law enforcement canine bites typically involve what we call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So is there a difference between, through your experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques, but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No.
Why not?
I don't think there was much time, and I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
No.
Now, at any point in time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
Oh, yes.
So you reviewed reports in relation to that, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains to that?
I would rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
So who contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that case, to clarify.
And so when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked to do?
To look at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even been provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy, that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this, when was that?
Sometime just before May 17th.
So sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him. I said I might be able to clarify. And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Mentioned the materials, asked you your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next day.
So the very next day on May 18th, you provided an opinion?
Yes.
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How was that provided?
Orally.
So you reached out to someone shortly before May 17th, spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th.
Yes.
But you didn't write any of that down?
No.
Now, beyond the materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a police officer. The decedent is a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by a motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
You reviewed everything attendant to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing from the lab beyond that?
I don't believe I did.
Now, this first instance, when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the Boston Globe headline. You know, it was some kind of there was some kind of interesting case, and I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May. That just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribed to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
I'm going to allow it.
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headlines or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
All right.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
No.
All right, so since this is a voir dire, I get to ask questions, doctor? So
Oh, yes.
I
Okay.
just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really heard you. So could you tell me again what your opinion is and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes. These injuries in the arm are, my opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
All right, so
high degree of medical certainty.
Reasonable degree of medical
You're saying a
certainty.
high degree.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that.
That you also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you are all set, doctor. I don't know yet whether you'll be testifying.
Okay.
We'll try and let you know. You're going to be around in a few days?
This was a remedy. What the
Okay,
fuck
we'll
does
let
she
you know as
mean
soon as
she
we can.
doesn't know?
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
She just provided an opinion. You said this is the remedy. She better be testifying.
Or what?
What?
Or what? You're gonna fly into Boston and have words with Judge Bev? Listen,
Right.
Judge Bev, you really fucked that one up.
Yeah.
This is what you're gonna hear when Allie gets on the plane.
Yeah. Shipping off to Boston. Ho, ho.
All right, Bev, what you got to say? You're not going to say anything?
So I would like to
20
hear
minutes.
argument on this witness before we hear
Why?
the other witnesses. So,
I'm not sure
and
what we're
Ms.
arguing.
Giannetti, I asked you the other day whether she reached out to you or you reached out to her, and you said there was an intermediary. But my concern was whether she came out of nowhere and reached out about this case. And
did.
that seems to sort of,
It wasn't Mr. Yannetti, it was me.
okay. All right. So the question I asked was answered pretty much by this witness, whether she saw something and decided she wanted to come forward. All right, it's the Commonwealth's motion. What are you asking me to do? Again, I found a violation of Rule 14. And there are two concerns here, the competency of the witness's testimony, how much she can testify to, whether she should testify at all. What is it you're asking me, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the witness be excluded from testifying at the trial for the violation of Rule 14, specifically, I believe it's Rule 14A6. This is a witness, as the court picked up on, that reached out, albeit through an intermediary.
That's not helping you, Lally. That goes against you.
With reference to just sort of discovering or coming upon this case in several weeks into the trial. It is concerning given the fact that the witness represented that she had a subscription to the Globe Online, received word of this, and the first time that she had ever seen it or it had grabbed her attention was in that first week of May when,
Calling her a liar?
as the court is well aware, there's been widespread media coverage, particularly through the Boston Globe for years at this point. The limitations of the testimony, it's also concerning because the disclosure from counsel indicated, again, as the court had noted, I didn't want to get into too much as far as for purposes of this voir dire, but there was additional material that was indicated in the disclosure that the witness had reviewed, including the UC Davis related to the canine DNA or the lack thereof, as well as, forgive me, the dog bite history of that specific dog, which also I would note for the court includes photographs of what a dog bite from that specific dog looks like. And that specifically apparently was not provided to this witness, who's then opining on, inferably at least, that that dog was the cause of these particular injuries. However, was not shown specifically anything to do with that bite history as far as by way of reports or photographs. So that juxtaposed or coupled with the immensely late disclosure. I mean, we're talking about at least the 6th week of trial by the time this witness is even mentioned, not on the defendant's witness list, not mentioned at any point in time during the pendency of the case, and then sort of pops up in the middle of May, and to the point that the limited amount of material or information that's provided by counsel as far as disclosure opinion doesn't come until today. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that her testimony in its entirety be excluded from this trial.
All right. Well, there's no bad faith. She
Your Honor,
came out.
exclusion is the highest form of punishment. It's the highest form of sanction that the court has available to it. Just to put a fine point on it, it is a dire remedy. And I know the court has mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm finding a violation of Rule 14. That sounds as if the court is suggesting or has inferred that we did something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. Because the court learned, I didn't reach out to her. She reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience with this.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
I don't know that there's a difference. I mean,
What I was trying to get at is this somebody who read about this case and said, I want to be part of that.
She's basically
That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue with your argument.
okay, I did not misrepresent anything.
I didn't say that.
I take offense at the court's tone that yes, you did
She's
say
not
that.
suggesting
You just
that.
said that. You
Take
said,
a
I just heard
breath.
testimony, and it's
Take
not what I
a
said the
breath,
other day.
Jackson.
I know a person in Los Angeles DA's office. I received a text message from that person saying there's someone who reached out to me who said I might be able to elucidate on this controversy concerning the dog bites. I then reached out to her So when you asked me who reached out to whom, I reached out to her through an intermediary, my friend in the DA's office back in Los Angeles County.
So maybe it wasn't clear what I was looking for. I think it was clear. But go ahead,
Okay.
continue with your argument on this.
My point is, Rule 14 requires a sanction if in fact the attorney has done something wrong. In other words, it connotes the idea that we're doing something by actively hiding evidence or holding back evidence or not providing evidence that you know you're going to use at some point in an effort to take a tactical advantage. And the sanction for that is exclusion. I've never met this woman. First time I laid eyes on her was during the process after she flew out here to engage this voir dire process. She indicated I could potentially provide some information about this controversy concerning dog bites. I then sent her materials. I talked to her. I sent her materials. I found her to be incredibly credible. I found her to be experienced, and I found her to be knowledgeable in this very specific area, which is rare. There's not that many people who have published, doctors who have published in the area of dog bites specifically. So I thought it makes sense for me to reach out to her and talk to her, which is exactly what we did. And within a couple of days, literally, you could almost count it by the hours of me receiving her information. We then had a discussion amongst ourselves. Is this somebody that we want to then present on the defense side, on the defense case, and we turned the information over to Mr. Lally. I understand that it was well into the trial, but that's not a fault of ours, and I don't think the sanction of exclusion is necessary or appropriate to punish.
She's ruling in your favor because she reached out to you.
Testify in rebuttal to ultimately what Dr. Scorti-Bello and the Commonwealth is going to present in their case in chief. That's what she's going to do. She's going to present contrary evidence or an alternative theory of where those injuries came from to a person. Everybody on the Commonwealth side who can elucidate about this has said those injuries come from a taillight, including Mr. Paul yesterday.
Thank you.
We have contrary evidence, and Ms. Reed should be entitled to present that evidence, even though it came late. It didn't come late by any fault of ours, and I don't believe that the Commonwealth has made out a prejudice that they can't overcome. It's late. Obviously, Mr. Lally is a skilled lawyer. There's nothing to say that he can't or hasn't been able to prepare for the cross-examination or for an examination in front of the jury. And I just don't think exclusion is appropriate.
All right, so the second part of this argument, and I'll start with the Commonwealth first. So in your motion to exclude, you also raise Daubert type concerns. So Mr. Lally, is there portions, if I permit her to testify,
Wow.
are there portions, focus specifically on the part of her opinion where she says, I guess the defense expects her to be able to say she will testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material.
How is this Daubert?
I think you have an uphill battle on that part, Mr. Jackson. The Commonwealth, what are you saying? If she testifies, what
Pause it.
should she be able to testify?
Pause it. Trooper fucking Paul could testify that that was done by some magic movements of the taillights and the scratches. But this woman can't say that there's nothing consistent about it. And she just sua sponte turned this into a Daubert motion. She did not tell. I'm sorry, but Jackson asked her, what are the parameters of this? What is the purpose of this? And she did not say, I am considering Daubert issues. She should have given him a chance to be heard. I'd say, Your Honor, I'm pulling her back in. She hasn't left the building. You did not tell me that you wanted to cover Daubert. I mean, this is outrageous.
I agree.
Allie or Bob, do you want to explain to the folks who may not know what a Daubert hearing or Daubert is?
Daubert is when you're trying to introduce a scientific, God, what's the right word? But like a like a new science that hasn't been properly tested, that they're saying that this witness doesn't have, or that the witness doesn't have the expertise to speak to, but more it goes to like when DNA was new and they're like, oh, DNA, what is DNA? And what's the mythology? And how does the expert determine this? And, to determine whether or not that science is even not bullshit, like that's the type of science that can be brought into a courtroom. She's more challenging her qualifications,
credentials,
right, to
That's
speak
bullshit.
to whether or
That's
not
Daubert. That's not Daubert.
it's not really Daubert. So she's calling it like Daubert type issues. But nonetheless, she did not say that this is going to be challenging. Like she didn't raise that issue enough to give him proper notice to, to present evidence that addressed that concern. And she waits till she gets off and then she tells the state, this is what, my concern is. Speak to it. Let's see if Lolly can even figure out how to fashion an argument that is in line with what she's thinking.
I agree, babe.
And don't just
Yeah,
say
she
nothing.
gave him
I
no
want
heads
some
up on it, Daubert, at all.
Sorry, I
It
thought
wasn't even mentioned in reference to the voir dire. So,
No. If the court were permitted to the doctor to testify, Your Honor, what I would submit would be permissible testimony from a legal standpoint, as some factual questions in regard to that. But from a legal standpoint, I think the court could permit her to testify as to the injuries that she observed, her work in history in that area, observing prior injuries related to animal attacks and whatever consistency she believes that they have with that. I do not think it would be proper to allow this witness to testify or opine anything about the inconsistency with regard to pedestrian injuries. I don't think any proper foundation has been laid for there, whether it be through experiential knowledge in relation to that, or any sort of specialized training or knowledge, or
Force Trooper Paul took
anything to do with that. Anything from a forensic pathology or anatomical pathology perspective, I think should also be out of bounds and excluded with regard to this witness. She's certainly a very experienced emergency room physician. So anything in relation to that, I think it's permissible. But as far as the experience when it comes to motor vehicle crashes or pedestrian crashes, of which the court is well aware, there are a litany of different types of interactions a pedestrian can have with a motor vehicle in a collision sequence.
But that's not what we're talking about here.
Well, there was no injuries to the leg, so it couldn't have been a motor vehicle collision. Is just plain wrong, and not backed up by science or anything else that this witness can testify to from the very limited experience she has in that realm. So if the witness were able or permitted by the court to testify, I would submit that her testimony should be relegated to simply what, if any, opinions, her experience, obviously, and then what, if any, opinions she draws with regard to the causation of the injuries on the right arm.
And the lack thereof.
As it pertains to consistency there. But I venture to guess that it's likely that those are probably also going to be, in her opinion, consistent with many other causes beyond that, if she's being reasonable.
Why didn't you ask?
All right, Mr. Jackson.
I'll submit, Your Honor. I have no issue with, I just said I'll submit, I'm not submitting. I have no issue with limiting her testimony to the animal attack issue, the dog attack issue. I didn't, as the court noted, I didn't spend any time. I think I may have asked one question consistent with the motor vehicle incident. I have no problem if the court wants to limit her testimony to the dog
He's got another witness
aspect, and not the motor vehicle aspect. I wasn't planning on going into that aspect anyway. I've got another pathologist who can do exactly that.
But you did go through it with her, and it's on your disclosure.
It is, but I have no problem editing.
So why is it on the disclosure, or where the Commonwealth turned over, that she viewed all reports associated with Chloe's bite history in the UC Davis DNA testing? Why is that in there?
Because we sit that in a Dropbox. We sit everything in a Dropbox, and I assumed that she reviewed it. She must not have seen it or opened it or reviewed it. I didn't know. But that's what was sent to her. Everything that's in the disclosure is what was sent to her.
Right. If she's permitted to testify, you led her through quite a bit today. You won't be able to. I mean, She struggled with to what degree of certainty she held an opinion. She struggled to what she viewed. She didn't write a report. I have to consider all of these things too, as the gatekeeper as to whether she can actually assist the jury. So
now
I'm
you're a
not deciding this right
gatekeeper.
here. Mr. Lally, if I do permit her to testify, I will give you
Are you
time
saying she wasn't much of a gatekeeper for Trooper Paul, babe?
to absorb this
Yeah,
testimony and to find an expert in rebuttal for this. How long might something like that take?
Not terribly long, Your Honor. As far as preparation, I can't give an exact time frame on that. As far as a rebuttal witness, I'd say a week at the most.
A week from today?
Yes.
Why don't you start looking at least? All right. Well, I decide I won't know until Thursday.
Sure.
All right. All right. Anything else on this witness?
Submitted, Your Honor.
I don't know who the hell she thinks she is.
All right.
Can I
She's
just
out of
say
her
something?
goddamn mind.
I just have to say something, and I completely agree with, the fact that freaking Trooper not so sure, could testify, and then they're questioning this lady's credentials is insane. But I do want to say, I've seen the chat today. This chat would be on literal fire right now if Lally, in the middle of the trial, tried to introduce a witness that he said, like, a friend emailed him because of got an email, whatever she said. I got an email. I got a thing from the Boston Globe, and I think I could. And like, let's just say it was like a car. It was a car accident. I 30 years ago, I used to deal car accidents, and if I got an email, I got this email, and I want to introduce this, and I'm going to introduce it in the middle of trial, and I never introduced this. Chat would be on fucking fire right now for the people who are giving shit to Lally. Of course Lally is going to question this. I mean, come on. Can we agree to that?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any problem questioning it. And and that's what, like Bob said going in, like, this was the right remedy to give him voir dire. But what she's talking about now, I don't know who the hell she thinks she is from that perspective, because she's not discussing this as a remedy issue. She's discussing this now as just a straight her credentials and if she can be helpful to the jury. And, just because she struggled to find the words that it's to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, she wanted to say a high degree of medical certainty.
Yeah, I'm not arguing her qualifications as an expert. I'm just
No,
saying
I know. I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but saying, like, what's got me up in arms now is just how she's
and
trying.
Like the use of the term, within a reasonable degree of medical certainty is a term of art that has to be said. I mean, that's what you want your experts to be saying within whatever their field is, whether it's medicine, science. You need your expert to say, or you want them to be saying within a reasonable degree of medical certainty. What Allie's saying is she was going to say within a high degree of medical certainty. I think that these are consistent with dog bite. So that term of art, and I hear what you're saying, Jay. That's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, it's late in the game to be pulling some shit where, despite the fact, I mean, we can't pretend like Lally and everyone else in the fucking world didn't know that they were saying that Chloe had bit him, right? I mean, like he can't feign like, oh, I was completely taken by surprise with this whole dog thing. We all knew this for a year. So like that part of his argument kind of falls flat with me. But in terms of him being able to get an expert, knowing that they're going to be presenting an expert saying that expert believes that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack, and him not having the time to counter that with his own expert, there's, it's fair. It's fair. So, I don't think the judge is popping off quite as bad as Allie does here. It's late in the game.
All of that I'm with. I'm not with what she's saying right now about this witness's, whether or not this witness is helpful to the jury. She struggled with what she read. She struggled with her certainty of her opinion. I'm not sure that she's going to assist the jury. I mean,
I agree with you there. Right.
But Trooper Paul assisted the jury. He didn't even have any degree of certainty.
Trooper Paul was great.
I guess the question I have for you guys is, how strong is that Rule 14? Like how like is it typical for a judge to be like, all right, I'll give it to you, even though it's a little like how in cases you've handled maybe, or like that seems like a big deal to be, this late in the game introducing someone who
we've
I
had
don't
it
know.
where-
You guys
where-
know, you tell me.
We've had it where the state's doing that and the judge lets it in and they give you a day to figure it out. It's more often coming from the state side, that new evidence is coming forward during the trial or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's a strict rule, but the remedy is not exclusion. The exclusion remedy is only if it's in bad faith. Like
That
you
makes sense.
did not, you held on to it and waited. But yeah,
Right.
I'd be up in arms if
Oh
this
yeah,
was in the
and
reverse
Jay's
and the
dead
state was,
on. Like if this was
yeah,
Lally pulling some shit at the 11th hour, actually, like at the stroke of midnight, we're 5 weeks into trial, and he's trying to drop a new expert. Everybody losing their fucking minds. It's like it's literally Ajax's "what's good for the goose is good for the gander" argument. It's like you can't. It goes both ways. So yeah, I mean, I certainly, in her initial ruling, and we're not going to hear, it sounds like her final ruling on the issue until Thursday. I have a feeling that she's going to allow her to testify exactly as to what Lally suggested that she be able to testify to, which is the consistencies with the wounds being that of an animal attack or a large animal attack, but can't get into anything regarding them being inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident. So I think that's probably where she'll land. And Jackson, in fairness, he didn't get into that. That wasn't really what she's here for. And as Jackson's not concerned about it because they have their own pathologist that's going to be opining on that. So I don't think that that's a death knell to him either way. Jackson strictly wants her for the dog bite side of it. He doesn't give a shit about the car accident side of it, so he doesn't need her to say that. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
I got 15 minutes with y'all, then I'll be back after the.
You want me to
lunch
play it or you
break.
want me to wait? You guys want more?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
Okay.
Fire off.
Next witness, please.
With regard to Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler, this is a different scenario, and I'm presuming that the court is asking for a year on their qualifications.
Well, I want to know who did what. They say we. I want to know who did what.
So is the court suggesting that I go through their entire testimony of exactly what they did, their testing, their opinions, conclusions, the bases of their opinions, conclusions?
However you want to do it, Mr. Jackson, we're here today on the Commonwealth's motion.
I realize that. It's not the Commonwealth's motion to depose our experts. The Commonwealth's motion is they're not qualified as accident reconstructionists. I don't need to go, and I'm not inclined to give them a free bite of the apple to cross-examine these witnesses twice on the basis of their opinion. I will go through, I think, to the court's satisfaction. I don't think it's going to take long to figure out that they're extraordinarily qualified to render opinions. But I don't think it's incumbent upon me to walk through their entire testimony and give the Commonwealth a free bite of the apple like it's a deposition.
Whatever you want to do. I'm
Wow.
not telling you what to do. Whatever you want to do.
I'm a little fuzzier on what she wants these witnesses up here for. Claire or Marie Russell, I got it because of the late disclosure. These guys were retained by the feds, I think.
Right.
Independent.
They're
So, like,
saying that they didn't disclose enough information about this. They
they
can't
got the same fucking report. They got the same fucking report.
I know. I'm just telling you. I
Defense
think that was their
But
complaint. They didn't
that's
know who did
ridiculous.
what. They couldn't tell what they did and what they reviewed, and so
Okay, but they got the same report. Lally got the same 3,500 page report that the defense did. So like this one, I'm adamant on, like you were adamant on the other one. This is bullshit. He shouldn't have to. And what Jackson's arguing right here is that he shouldn't have to allow for Lally to get two bites at the apple, meaning that he gets to cross-examine this guy twice or both of these guys twice, because that's essentially as to the opinions and how they reach those opinions, because that gives him an unfair advantage in terms of preparing for whether they're actually in front of the jury. He can see, you know, what lands, what doesn't land. If he asks a stupid fucking question, he knows next time not to ask that stupid fucking question. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, this is a bigger deal to me than what's going on with Dr. Russell. I have a feeling that the judge will allow her to testify as to the consistency with it being the injuries were from a dog bite or a large animal attack. But, you know, this thing, I think Jackson's going to keep it very, very limited. He's going to basically put their creds on, and he's not going to get in. We're not going to get into their basis of their opinions. I don't think. If I'm Jackson, there's no way I'm doing that.
No, I think he needs to, based on what she said, he needs to delve into who specifically did what, who specifically reviewed what, and maybe not the opinion, but the basis of it, like what they relied on to specifically to get there.
I don't even think they need to be doing that. Like, Lally got the same shit, but, you know, I mean, this isn't one where Lally can say, I didn't have the reports.
Right.
Lally had the reports. So I don't
and
get
earlier she was like, this is a gift to you too. You said you haven't had a chance to, you know, see what they're going to say. So let's see what they're going to say.
Yeah.
I think he better do more than he thinks he needs to do. She's like keeping it close to her chest, but she's ready to keep it out.
Yes. Close to the vest.
Very loudly.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Daniel Wolfe, last name spelled W-O-L-F-E.
So what do you do for a living?
I am the director of accident reconstruction at a company known as ARCA, A-R-C-C-A.
And tell us a little bit about ARCA. If you could explain to the court what ARCA is and what its primary mission is.
So ARCA is a forensic consulting engineering company. We have a variety of disciplines that include biomechanics, failure analysis, human factors, premise liability, crashworthiness, and accident reconstruction.
You said that you were the current director of accident reconstruction, correct?
That is correct.
Is that a specialty of ARCA specifically?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of contracts does ARCA routinely engage in?
We typically work for law firms, insurance carriers.
What about other clientele? For instance, maybe it's an insurance carrier or a law firm, but what about the ultimate client? The military, Department of Defense? Have you contracted with other entities or agencies, sporting agencies?
Certainly, yes. We've done research for the military. We do player safety for the NHL. So yes, we are involved in a number of research projects as well.
And in terms of ARCA and its commissions and consultation, is it known both nationally and internationally? Is it recognized as a leader in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
As the director of accident reconstruction, do you specialize in not only accident reconstruction, but human factors as well?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a synopsis of the professional discipline of accident reconstruction? What is accident reconstruction?
Well, I think that's a very broad topic. I look at the cases that come across my desk. You know, I've been involved with pedestrian impacts, and that could be pedestrians hitting the side of vehicles, fronts, backs, getting run over by vehicles, being struck by a vehicle, then projected into another vehicle. I've dealt with your simple fender bender collisions. I've dealt with collisions that involve 60-car pileups on a highway. So again, accident reconstruction in terms of the scope for a case, it can really vary case to case depending on the facts and circumstances of that case.
And when you say dealt with, are you talking about literally going into, from an engineering and a scientific standpoint, trying to reconstruct what happened, what the causal effects were of that accident, and what the results were, the resultant damage or injuries were?
Absolutely.
What about human factors? What does that discipline entail? What is human factors?
Well, to give you an example of that, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility work where, for instance, let's say a pedestrian's coming out onto the roadway at night. Maybe it's not a lit roadway and you're relying on your vehicle headlights to illuminate that pedestrian. So it's determining when would a driver recognize that individual on the roadway based upon the headlights, if there is any artificial lighting, their clothing. And then we look at how do drivers respond based upon that scenario that they're presented with. So we know that response times are different depending on the hazard that's presented to them. So if it's a pedestrian coming to the roadway, it's a vehicle stopping in front of you. So that's the application of human factors.
And that might include everything from passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, bicycle issues, motorcycle issues, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What education, training, and background qualifies you to perform the duties that you just described as Director of Accident Reconstruction at ARCA?
In terms of my educational background, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University back in 2012, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my coursework while at James Madison included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, and your typical engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
Did your research area also include physics, in addition to electromagnetics?
Yes, sir.
Optics?
Yes, sir.
Photonics?
Yes, sir.
And lighting?
Correct.
Are you accredited as a traffic accident reconstructionist?
Yes, sir.
By whom?
By an organization known as ACTAR, which is the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists.
Are you trained in photogrammetry to determine vehicle crash and map scene evidence from photographs?
Yes, sir.
In other words, looking at a photograph rather than being at the scene, that is a specialty or a specific area of training that you've engaged, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you trained in Bosch crash data retrieval analysis?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise known as CDR analysis, right?
Correct.
In terms of professional associations and accreditations, are you certified by the Society of Automotive Engineers?
Yes, I'm a member of that organization.
What about being a member of Optical Society of America?
Yes, sir.
Illuminating Engineering Society?
Yes, sir.
And finally, the National Association of Professional Accident Reconstruction Specialists?
Yes, sir.
You're accredited by all of those organizations, is that right?
I'm a member of all of those, yes, sir.
Have you authored peer-reviewed articles in the area that we've just discussed?
I've authored a number of papers in the field of physics, and one of my most recent publications was that dealing with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records.
In 2021, did you author or co-author a peer-reviewed article known as Collision, the International Compendium for Crash Research Dealing with Vehicle Control History and Braking Issues?
Yes, sir.
Have you qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes, sir.
Importantly, were you hired by the defense in this case?
No, sir.
Before this morning, you walked into court. Have you and I ever met face to face?
No, sir.
Right here.
In terms of the commission that you were asked to undertake in this case,
Julie Graham.
that have anything to do with the defense?
No, sir.
That have anything to do with the Commonwealth?
No, sir.
So a third-party agency hired you and commissioned you on with the responsibility of doing accident reconstruction in this case, correct?
Correct.
Person to my left, the female to my left sitting here. You ever seen her before?
Nope.
I've heard that opinion.
You know who she is?
From me?
Yes.
Don't let someone else comment on
How
it.
many times have you been qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
I think it's around 20 times to date.
In both federal and state court?
Just state court.
Multiple states?
Yes, sir.
Your analysis, conclusions, and opinions are completely independent, whatever they are. Those analysis, conclusions, and opinions in this case are completely independent of the defense and of the Commonwealth. Have I got that right?
It's based on the evidence. That's correct.
And you're not paid by either side here in this courtroom?
Correct.
You and your team were asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who at ARCA was assigned to the team who ultimately would undertake that analysis?
So it was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
Scott Klein has a Master of Science, is that right?
I believe he's got a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, yes.
In engineering?
Correct.
All right. And Dr. Rentschler is a PhD in what area?
Biomechanical engineering.
Were you provided and did you review certain materials in furtherance of your consultation in this matter?
Yes, sir.
can have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
These are the qualifications of an expert. This is what it's supposed to sound like. Also,
I am Trooper Paul.
I'd like to use my time efficiently, Doctor.
I'm
gonna
Trooper
read through
Paul.
a number of materials.
I had a
that you
good
reviewed.
class.
The scene told me. I don't know.
The scene spoke to me.
The scene
Before I
spiked.
do
It
that,
told
may I
me.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
It
By
just
the way,
did.
I
The
can
scene
see that
told me.
the chat is a big fan of this gentleman's just his appear.
I just want you to take a look
We
at
haven't
the
had a
first two
witness where the
pages of
chat
that
has
document and tell me
made
if
me
you
blush in
recognize
a
that.
while, but it's going there.
Oh, hot witness alert.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What is that? What are those two pages?
These are the first 2 pages from the report that ARCA issued in regards to this matter.
Do you see a list of 14 items on those 2 pages?
Yes, sir.
Is that an accurate reflection of the items that you were provided by this other agency to review in terms of coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning this case?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Those items include the Norfolk SPDU homicide death report, correct?
Correct.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of State Police crime scene report, correct?
Correct.
The OCME dispatch removal report, correct?
Correct.
Photographs of the incident location,
Correct.
videos of the incident location.
Correct.
Hey, the ladies are
Photographs of the
frothing at the
2021
mouth.
Lexus
Frothing.
LX 570.
Yes, big.
Correct.
Photographs of recovered evidence.
Correct.
Crash data retrieval report from the 2021 Lexus 570.
Correct.
Report of autopsy.
Correct.
Autopsy photographs.
Yes.
Three-dimensional laser scan data of a Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
A VIN-Link, VIN capital LINK report sheet for the 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
Expert auto stats data sheets for a 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
And publicly available literature, including but not limited to the documents cited within the report, learned treatises, textbooks, and scientific standards, correct?
Correct.
All of those items and data were reviewed by you and your team in coming to your conclusions and opinions in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to ask you one other series of questions concerning sort of who did what. Your report indicates that there were, in no small part, 2 undertakings, if I can ask them in terms of pillars: the damage to the vehicle and the injuries to the body of John O'Keefe, correct?
I would say that's a fair characterization. Yes.
Okay. And I may be butchering this a bit because I'm not being very scientific, but were you more responsible for the vehicle damage or the injury damage?
The vehicle damage.
And who on your team was more responsible for the injury damage?
That would be Dr. Andrew Rentschler.
Obviously, Dr. Wolf, in coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning the damage to the vehicle, you had to consider the damage to the human being, correct, John O'Keefe?
Correct.
And as the team leader, in terms of Dr. Rentschler coming to his conclusions and opinions concerning the damage to the human being, he also had to consider the damage to the vehicle and the interplay of the two, correct?
Correct. We work together.
I was just going to say, is that how you two and Mr. Klein work together to come to the opinions and conclusions that are cited in your multi-page report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
This guy's on the accident recon swimsuit calendar, so you guys can order that if you want to.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Now, you went through a list of about 14 things that are contained within your report that your firm or your agency was provided with that you reviewed, correct?
That is correct.
Specifically review all 14 of those things, or was that done as sort of a team?
Yes, I looked through all of the documents.
You personally looked at all 14 of those items that are listed within the report?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that it was your opinions or what you did in this case, that was, you were asked to answer specific questions, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't like you were just tasked with, here's some facts, go do, or take a look at a crash reconstruction or create a crash reconstruction. You were asked very specific questions and you tried to answer them the best you could, correct?
I don't know that there were specific questions. I think ultimately it was an open-ended question.
But related to you testified as to two specific areas that your firm or your agency looked at, right?
Those are the disciplines that the report covers, yes.
Well, you testified about some other areas of expertise as far as human factors, visibility, luminescence, things like that. You didn't do any of those things here, correct?
Wasn't part of my scope in this case.
And the scope in your case, you indicate that it was based on the evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Now, to be fair, that's based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
So what did Mr. Klein do?
So as a part of the engagement with the entity that ultimately retained us in this, due to the confidentiality of it, only those who had access to the material to the file were allowed to review it and discuss it. And essentially, Scott Klein served as kind of another reconstruction expert to essentially bounce ideas off of and help with the review.
So for lack of a better term, sort of provided, let's say, sort of technical review of your work and Dr. Rentschler's work, is that correct?
Peer review.
I would say assist us with the analysis, yes.
Yeah. My beard is on point, Barb.
No, obviously your firm or your agency issued a report in relation to what
There's
you
your
did,
review.
correct?
That's correct.
And you've obviously had a time to review that report as far as what's contained in there.
Breaking news,
as well as
Jay.
conclusions and opinions.
I heard it was in Long Island too.
Yes.
Oh,
So it's
shit.
your testimony that anything that has to do with anything
Why would
factually,
that fucking guy not
opinions
get
or
an Uber?
otherwise,
Kidding me?
in relation
Jesus
to
Christ.
Be so mad.
the
What
motor
a
vehicle
douche.
damage, those are your opinions, those are your conclusions, correct?
I would say that's fair, yes.
And again, based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
And so the facts or evidence or conclusions or opinions related to
I
injuries
agree.
to Mr. O'Keefe,
I've been telling
that
that
was
for 10
Dr.
years.
or Mr. Rentschler's area, is that fair to say?
Dr. Rentschler, yes.
And again, that was based on the evidence or whatever he was providing, correct?
Correct.
Which would be the same materials that you
Thank
had
you.
testified that you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson? All right, so, Doctor, I just have one question for you. What specifically were you asked to do?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear the court.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained us gave us a selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question. Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
All right, and they just gave you what they wanted to give you as far as you know?
We had no say in what material was handed over to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally?
Just briefly.
Objection.
And I apologize for this. I'm just unaware. Is it Mr. Wolf or Dr. Wolf?
Dr. Wolf is fine.
Dr. Bitch.
Wolf, when you say that you were asked specifically whether or not the evidence.
But my friends call me the
evidence
Wolf Man.
that you were provided was consistent with a pedestrian collision, were you asked sort of in general terms as far as any type of pedestrian collision, or were you asked specifically as far as biomechanically could say the injury to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head have been caused by contact with the vehicle? How open-ended was this question?
Again, I think it relates to, is the vehicle damage consistent with the pedestrian impact, and are the injuries consistent with the pedestrian impact?
And again, the whole panoply of injuries, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Let me rephrase. So
Yeah,
did
don't use
anybody
that word again,
specifically
Lally.
ask you to determine whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused by a motor vehicle?
I don't know that they asked us specifically Again, they basically asked us to perform an accident reconstruction and biomechanical analysis and basically tell them our findings, and these are our findings.
And in the materials that you reviewed, did you see anything in there of any sort of statement, suggestion, intimation, anything at all that suggested that the injuries or the fracture to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head was caused by a motor vehicle?
In terms of direct contact?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
Nothing further.
Yes,
Anything?
science.
Nothing. All right, Dr. Wolf, you are
Emily
all
is
set, sir.
insistent
Thank
that
you.
Yes,
I
science.
do the handlebar. Here, this is what it looks like.
I don't know how the hell this guy's not gonna be allowed to testify. That would be insane.
Oh, he's got to be able to testify. I'll lose my shit like Allie did with Dr. Marie Claire or Claire Russell, Malik Claire Russell. What's her name?
Just gonna ask you to be mindful of the court and step up.
Is that like a little girl store, or like why is that? Like I kept like on my tweet I called her Claire Russell, and then I had to go back and edit it. On our ticker I had her as Claire Russell. All right, this guy's not quite as handsome as last chap, but so the lady's going to be a little disappointed, but I'm sure he's equally bright. So we're going to see. This is the litmus test to see.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr.
brains
Jackson.
and the suit thing is a bunch of bullshit.
Could you please state your name and
Whether or
spell
not
your
they think
last
he's
name
hot.
for the record?
Certainly, Dr. Andrew John Rentschler,
Already brilliant. Got a
RENTSCHLER.
suit. Is he hot, ladies?
So what do you
Is he
do?
hot?
I am a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist.
Brainy as
What area of
fuck.
the country do you live in?
I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What is your title currently at your company?
I am a vice president and director of biomechanics for the Midwest division.
And what is the name of that company?
It's called ARCA LLC.
And what is the main mission of ARCA? What does ARCA do?
So ARCA is a engineering consulting company, and we have several different types of engineers, biomechanical engineers such as myself, accident reconstructionists, mechanical engineers who look at crash worthiness, safety of vehicles, and other types of events. So we really do all types of work. We do litigation type work, as well as research and development for government and private entities as well.
Let me have just a moment there.
Yes.
Well, the results are in, Jay.
That's a landslide.
Can you give me a brief synopsis of the professional discipline of injury causation biomechanics? What is that?
So injury causation biomechanics is really applying traditional engineering principles to the human body. So as a biomechanical engineer, I look at the response of the body to accelerations and forces and determine how an injury occurs. You know, an injury to the human body is just an engineering problem. For instance, a mechanical engineer might look at a piece of steel and you know the size of the steel and the shape of it. And if you apply a force in a certain direction, that steel will bend and eventually break. Well, we do the same thing, but we look at the human body. How much force do you have to apply, and how does that force have to be applied in what direction or manner to get a specific injury, whether it's a skull fracture, an intervertebral disc injury, a concussion. So we look at the response of the human body to different forces and accelerations in different types of settings. And ultimately, our hope is to help mitigate or prevent injuries, whether it's in a motor vehicle accident, sports setting, industrial setting, auto pedestrian impact, try and make products and environments safer for individuals.
And that's different from what medical doctors, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
Little boy walks into an ER with a broken arm. Medical doctor wants to reset the arm and fix the arm, correct?
That's right, yes.
What does the biomechanical engineer want to learn about the broken arm?
We want to learn how that break or that fracture occurs. I always say that we kind of approach injuries from two different directions. You have an injury occur. After it occurs, moving forward, that's when the medical doctors get involved. They diagnose the injury, determine the best way to treat it, what's the prognosis. As a biomechanical engineer, I kind of take the reverse direction. We look at, here's the injury, here's what's diagnosed. Well, how did that injury occur? You know, how much force do you have to apply to cause that fracture? How did the bone have to be loaded? How did it bend to actually cause a specific type of fracture? So we really kind of approach the injury from two different directions.
Understood. And given that scientific approach, oftentimes you can come to conclusions and opinions, scientific conclusions and opinions about the causation of an injury, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, that's what biomechanical engineering is how does an injury occur? Why did it occur? And what type of setting did the injury actually occur? What type of loading and what type of kinematics do you need to have this injury actually occur?
Can you tell the court a brief synopsis on the discipline of human factors? What part does that play in what you do for a living?
Well, human factors is a large part of it as well. I mean, from a biomechanical standpoint, we look at the body, we have to know anatomy, we have to know the makeup of the body. And then human factors plays a part of it as well, as how individuals respond or what their response is to different types of environments or reactions. It really all plays into looking at a specific event. How did someone react? How did their body move? How was the body loaded? There's all different types of factors that you have to apply. The human factors, kinematics, kinetics, biomechanical, musculoskeletal interactions. It's all these different factors that are really involved in performing an analysis to ultimately look at injury causation.
Doctor, as the director of biomechanics and human factors at ARCA, what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform those duties?
Well, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a minor in Biomedical Engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my Master's in Bioengineering and Biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I got my PhD or my doctorate in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
Can you give us a brief work history up to and before ARCA?
Sure. So I got my PhD in 2004, and then since then I worked in the consulting field for biomechanics. I've worked for a company out in Davis, California for a while called Biomechanical Engineering Accident Reconstruction. I then joined another engineering company in Jacksonville, Florida for about 3 years called Chesapeake Engineering and Design. And I have now been with ARCA for approximately 16 and a half years.
And in those positions and in your position currently as a director at ARCA, do you specialize in research and analysis attendant to evaluating and studying the relationships between crash injuries, crash forces, human kinematics, and human tolerances?
I do. I mean, that's really what I do on a daily basis, whether it be in litigation type cases or the research and development we do for different companies or entities, or even internal research that we perform at ARCA.
Doctor, what professional associations and accreditations do you have?
I'm a member of the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, as well as the Society for Automotive Engineering. Now, with respect to biomechanical engineering, there's no actual professional licensure for biomechanical engineering. So a PhD or a doctorate is the highest degree you can have in that field.
Are you also a reviewer for archives, physical medicine and rehabilitation and biomechanical engineering?
Really have to enunciate
online?
that word.
I am, yes. Well, usually if you publish articles in a journal, usually that journal comes back to you and asks you to be a reviewer. So I certainly do that type of work as well.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about your ongoing education, your professional education after your PhD. Have you continued your education in areas of biomechanics and high impact injuries from the NTSB?
I have. I've taken classes through the NTSB and SAE, the IPTM, Police Technology Management Training Center. There's several different entities I've taken biomechanical and accident reconstruction courses through.
So the alphabet soup, if you will, of biomechanical engineering and human factors.
Right, yes.
And you continue that today?
I do, yes, sir.
Any specific training in human kinematics?
Yes, I do.
Objection. This guy's way too smart. Objection.
How do you define what is kinematics?
So kinematics is the motion of the human body and looking at how the body moves. And it's irrelevant or irrespective of the forces that cause that motion. So we're really looking at for instance, how one body part moves with respect to the next. We can see how the body moves as a result of a specific type of event.
You mentioned injury mechanics previously in one of your answers. What is injury mechanics and how does that relate to biomechanics?
So again, that's a subset of biomechanics looking at the response and the strength of the different parts of tissue of the human body. On a very basic level, to get an injury or have an injury occur, you need really two factors. You need enough force to cause injury to the tissue, and you need that force applied in the right manner. So if I wanted to fracture my elbow, I certainly couldn't take a hit on my shoulder and expect my elbow to fracture. Its force is exerted in the wrong location. And likewise, if I just lean my elbow on the counter here, that's not enough force. So you need the force and you need the application of that force in the correct manner to produce what we call an injury mechanism.
And have you ever participated in any studies or
Objection. This guy's giving Trooper Paul a complex.
Dissertation, your PhD. What about additional studies and research in this?
I mean, this is exactly what I was trying to explain when I was talking about an expert. Like I felt like
just
these
at
people
ARCA,
are like
I've worked with the United States military. We worked on the design of the MRAC vehicles, the mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles over in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's correct, yes. And the issue there is they go over the IED, the improvised explosive device, and it blows the vehicle up off the ground. So you're getting very large forces and accelerations through the vehicle, through the seat, into the soldier's spines. So we're seeing very traumatic and severe spinal and head injuries. So at ARCA, we work on what we call an energy absorbing seat design. So when the vehicle gets blown off the ground, that seat is designed to absorb the force and the energy to protect the soldier's spine and their head.
Did you take part in the design of that seat?
I did, yes, sir.
Has that been employed by the Department of Defense?
Yes, it has been.
Troops utilizing that new seat design, that safety seat design in that troop carrier to this day?
As far as I know, it's from what they'll tell us, yes, sir.
Understood. Are you also published in this field, Doctor?
I am, yes.
Can you give us a couple of examples of current studies that you're involved in or publications that you've done in the past concerning bioengineering and the impact or the association that it has with human factors?
Sure. I mean, and another project I'm working on is we work with the NHL actually at ARCA. We have an ongoing, we have an ongoing relationship with the Department of Player Safety. For instance, we helped redesign part of the rink. In every arena, they had at the end of the player area, there was basically a 90-degree stanchion where the glass met. And so players were kind of getting checked down in the boards and then hitting up against the glass. And actually, somewhat ironically, it was Chara hitting Pacioretty into the glass, the Boston-Montreal game, and caused a cervical fracture and concussion. And the NHL came to us to see if we could have
guys talking about the Bruins. The jury is gonna love this.
We redesigned the rink to make it a little safer. So we took crash test dummies, the anthropomorphic test device, which you've probably seen on TV. The automotive manufacturers use them all the time, and threw them into different configurations of glass. And now in every arena in the NHL, it is basically a curved piece of spring-loaded Lexan or plexiglass, where the players they hit into it, it absorbs the impact, and they glance off of the glass.
Is that a design that you helped come up with?
It is, yes.
So both from the United States military as well as professional sporting leagues, they've come to you to help save lives, lower risk.
That's right. Mitigate and prevent injuries. Yes, sir.
What about crash and sled testing?
Yeah, I've performed a number of crash and sled tests. When you look at any vehicle that's driven in the United States, it has to pass federal motor vehicle safety standards. There's federal regulations that they have to pass. And, part of that involves running the vehicle into a wall at 35 miles an hour, hitting it from behind, rollover type impacts. And they have these crash test dummies in those vehicles. So we perform a lot of testing for different cases and situations where we put that dummy in the vehicle and we evaluate the safety system, whether it's the lap and shoulder belt or if it's the airbag or the seatbelt pretensioner, determine how to make the car safer. And part of that is looking at the force that's exerted on that dummy, because there's tolerance values. We know how much force it takes to cause specific injuries. So we want to make sure in certain instances, at certain speeds or impacts, that if someone's in an accident, the force acting on, say, their head or their neck or their chest is going to be below these established tolerance values.
Speaking of how much force it takes to cause an injury to a human body, have you engaged in any testing or published in the field of auto-pedestrian incidents?
Yes, I've been involved in a number of studies where we're looking at auto-pedestrian type impacts. Again, a lot of times we'll utilize the crash test dummy where we'll set it up and we'll actually have it struck by different vehicles or different objects
to look
Remember
at
MJ?
the response
Access
of the
dummies?
body.
Yeah,
It's very important if you're talking about an
mediocre.
auto-ped type impact. You have to know the configuration of the pedestrian, the vehicle, where they hit on the vehicle, whether it's a projection type impact, a wrap, a fender vault. It really all depends on how the person's positioned and the amount of force and speed involved in that type of an impact.
And staying with that for a second, that basic subject matter, have you also engaged in studies related to slips and falls where somebody might fall from a standing position and injure themselves, either to their head, shoulders, whatever, and those kinds of injury impacts?
I have, yes. And then one of the issues we look at it there is a lot of people fall, especially elderly people. So we want to look at what types of forces are being produced. You look at hip fractures. If you slip and fall backwards, head fractures. So we're trying to determine how to prevent those falls from happening and also create devices or products that can help actually prevent injuries if someone does take a fall.
Doctor, have you been retained as an expert in the area of biomechanical engineering and human factors in the past?
I have, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, is there anything that you are not skilled and
You
trained
take a look
in?
at that document and tell me if you recognize it.
I mean,
This is a list of my deposition and trial testimony.
Your Honor, I provided that to the court this morning.
Yes, I appreciate it. I had a chance to look at it.
Okay. That's about I don't want to go through everything. That's about a 14-page document. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Let me just ask it this way.
Huge.
How many times do you think you've been qualified as an expert in the field or testified as an expert in the field of
1
biomechanics,
million
biomechanical
times.
factors?
I've testified probably over 150 times in numerous state, federal, civil, and criminal courts throughout the country.
Your Honor, move to, I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
And this
The
guy was
purposes
also
of
hired
what
by the
Your
feds.
Honor,
I
I'm
missed
asking
that
this,
part.
Document be marked.
Sure.
Huh?
Was this guy also hired by the feds? I missed that part.
Yeah. Thank you. Have you ever testified in criminal court as an expert in biomechanical engineering?
I have, yes.
How recently have you testified in criminal court?
Well, actually, I've testified twice. The end of May, I think May 31st, I testified in McKean County, Pennsylvania. For the prosecution, it was a case where the defendant was accused of beating his girlfriend to death and basically said that she fell down the steps. So my testimony involved determining how her injuries occurred and that they were entirely inconsistent with what would have happened during a stair fall.
What about another case?
And then about a week after that, around June 6th or 7th, I testified in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, again for the prosecution for another homicide case where the defendant was accused of essentially beating his wife to death and then said that she actually fell backwards and struck her head, caused a skull fracture on the side of the sink. So my testimony, again, pertained to looking at the injury mechanisms and determining that his story of her falling back and striking her head on the sink, it's inconsistent with the injuries and the type of force that would have been exerted in that case.
In both of those murder cases, you were hired or retained by the prosecution in the case, not by the defense, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Your opinions in furtherance of the prosecution's case in chief, not the defense case in chief, correct?
That's correct, yes.
With regard to this case, you were asked to look at several items. We've already gone over those in the other testimony, so I won't belabor that. You were asked to look at several items, correct?
I was, yes.
And ultimately, based on that series of information, that universe of information that you were provided, see if you could come to an opinion and conclusion concerning the incident before the court now, correct?
That's right. See if I could determine what happened, how the injuries occurred, and the events leading up to and during that process.
Without going into your conclusions and opinions, were you able to come to conclusions and opinions to a reasonable degree of science and concerns?
I was, yes, sir.
You were not hired by the defense, by me, or anybody on the defense side in this case, correct?
That's correct. I was not.
You were not consulted with or hired by the Commonwealth either.
That's correct. I was not.
It was a completely independent agency, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Before this morning, have you and I ever met?
No, sir.
And you and I have never talked about the substance of your opinion and conclusion, correct?
We have not. That's correct.
You did reduce those opinions and conclusions in conjunction with your team to a report, is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
And your understanding is that report was made available both to the defense and the Commonwealth in this case. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good guess.
Just a few questions for you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, with relation to your work in this instance, in this case, were there any limitations as far as confidentiality or anything that were put on you or any of your team?
What do you mean by
As
confidentiality?
far as who, what, where, and how you could discuss what you did?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly we just discussed with who we were retained by in this case. I don't believe I discussed the case with anybody else except for my cohorts who were also involved in the case.
And so my question, sir, more is geared towards, at some point you were made aware that your report and your findings were made available to both the prosecution and the defense in this case, correct?
I was made aware of that, yes, sir.
And when you were made aware of that, was there any limitations on given to you as far as who you could discuss your report, your findings, or anything with?
Yeah, basically given the direction or the request that I don't actually discuss the substance of my opinions or my report with anybody aside from who we were originally retained to work for.
Now, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I am going to show you the first couple pages of your report, specifically right down the bottom. There's a list of items 1 through 14. I asked you to review those.
Mods, block Missy. She said Lally's a vision. Please block her.
In taupe, Jay. In taupe.
Okay.
Now, is that the totality of information that you and your firm were provided with in reference to what you did in this case?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
So nothing beyond that list of 14 things did you have occasion to look at, review, or have any opportunity to see at any time?
Well, aside from we did do testing in this case, so we did do other
Aside
work.
from your independent testing, I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you, that is a sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct, yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you or your company for this, but within the report, there's a lot of we. So what I'm asking is, did you personally review each of those 14 items that are listed in that report?
I did personally review every bit and every page of information that was provided in this case, yes, sir.
And to be clear, just to sort of close the loop on this, when it comes to those 14 items, were you allowed to ask for any additional items, or was it just you were limited to this is what you have, go form an opinion?
There may have been discussion about if there's other information available, but I believe ultimately that we rendered our opinions obviously just on this specific information that was provided to us.
Now, as far as your opinion in your report, when was that issued?
February 12th of 2024.
So that date on the top of the report of February 12th, 2024, that's when you sent the report to the people that contracted you to do the analysis in the first place.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
And what I'm trying to ascertain here, Doctor, is just sort of the different roles that you and the other members of your team performed in reference to this. Am I correct in that your primary role in this pertained to sort of biomechanical engineering analysis of injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe?
That would be correct. Yes, sir.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but Dr. Wolf would have been more responsible for issues related to the vehicle itself.
Generally speaking, yes, that would be correct.
Obviously, there's some interaction between damage to the vehicle and injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, but as far as your primary sort of any opinions contained within this report pertaining to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, those would be your opinions, correct?
Yes, any opinions or information with respect to the injuries would be my purview and my opinions in this matter. Yes, sir.
And concomitantly, so any opinions related to damage to the motor vehicle, those would be opinions of Dr. Wolf, is that right?
Well, to some extent. I mean, certainly I would have opinions as well based on the interaction or alleged interaction between the body and, for instance, the vehicle in this case, and what damage to both the body as well as the vehicle you would expect. So I think there's basically some overlap between those issues. I wouldn't say that it's a complete separation.
And so, and again, Doctor, what your opinions or ultimate conclusions are, whether they be yours or Dr. Wolf's or a combination of the two, it's all limited based on the information and the evidence that you received, correct?
It certainly is based on the information that we reviewed and listed in our report. Yes, sir.
Now, as far as sort of a mandate or from the agency that hired you, were you asked to answer a specific question, or were you asked to just do an analysis based on what we sent you, or how was that put to you as far as what you were doing?
There was a specific request that we were asked to perform and to evaluate in this case.
And specifically what I'm asking, sir, is there's an analysis in there of whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused from contact with the vehicle, correct?
That is part of my analysis and opinions, yes, sir.
And were you specifically asked to address or answer that question by the agency that hired you?
That was one of the questions I was specifically asked, yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Thank you.
All right, so Doctor, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So regarding this specific request, what were you tasked to do specifically?
So specifically overall, I was tasked from the biomechanical standpoint to determine or see if it's possible to determine how the injuries in this case occurred. And part of that was determine whether the injuries, the head injury and the arm injuries resulted from contact with the Lexus in this case.
Okay. And regarding all of your prior testimony, a good deal of it seems to be in depositions. Any of those in Massachusetts?
There's a couple, I believe. I've testified at trial in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Middlesex Superior Court.
Do you know where that might be? I do want to look at that.
I can find it for you, maybe a couple of months ago.
Jesus, is she really questioning this guy's
case or
liability?
a civil case?
Oh, it was in
Fuck
civil
outta here.
case. I think.
Come on, Bev.
Yeah,
You better.
so let's see. There was
You
one
better.
November 14th, 15th, 2023, Middlesex Superior Court. That was probably the most recent one.
Okay, what number is that on there if I want to go back and look at it?
That is number 310.
Thank you. Is there another Massachusetts case?
Oh, I'm sure there are, because I know there's some from earlier in my career. Let me see. See if I can find them for you real quickly here. Read this. Louisiana. I'm gonna butcher it. Worcester.
Is that a civil or criminal case, Doctor?
That is a civil case as well.
Okay. What year?
Others, I don't recall off the top.
All right, I'll go through it more closely. I
Sure.
appreciate you saving me some time.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions based on my questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
No. All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I just got a $20 cash app from KTG for the accent reconstructionist bathing suit calendar, swimsuit calendar. KTG, Katie, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Is that dude January, the guy that just got off the stand?
Got to be January.
All right, so Mr. Lally, I will hear you on your motion. Now, we didn't get into the ultimate opinions and the basis for that opinion, but I'll hear you on your motion.
Your Honor, what essentially what Commonwealth was seeking and had been seeking was just in reference to that, as far as who did what and who was responsible for what and what were the items reviewed, and is that the totality of it? There's a date on the report. I don't know if that was a date as far as when it was filed, when it was opinion was rendered, when that was provided, what was provided to them in the course of their analysis. So I think very simply what the Commonwealth had been seeking for the most part was covered today.
Okay. All right. I have some questions as to the scope of the testimony of the witnesses. So, Mr. Jackson, you intend to have them testify consistently with the report, everything covered in the report?
Correct.
And the conclusions, all 4 conclusions in the report?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Lally, what's your take on this?
I do have an issue with number 4. I don't think they're qualified to testify to. I don't think either of them is qualified to testify to that. That's more of an area of forensic pathology.
What do you say to that, Mr. Jackson?
Number 4 is, their opinion is, there's currently insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's skull brain injuries or the circumstances surrounding the event. That is well within the scope of their expertise. Obviously, I don't think I have to beat this dead horse. They are highly, highly qualified to review all 4 opinions. And if the evidence in their opinion, their expert opinion, to
you know how hard it is for Jackson not to be saying, you heard Trooper Paul yesterday, right, Your Honor?
Then that is a
can we compare and contrast?
It's well within the scope what they can testify to. That's their opinion. That's their conclusion. Mr. Lally is going to have an expert, Trooper Paul, who's going to differ or who has differed in that opinion. So be it.
And I would have kept it out. Remember, I would have kept out any medical part had there been an objection. And when you objected, I sustained the objection.
I think we're talking about 2 different things, apples and oranges. I didn't, that's not, Trooper Paul's opinion is that his injury or his injuries, or I think he said variously that it was blunt force, could have come from the curb, or it was blunt force because the road was blunt. That was his opinion, and he was sticking to it. This is contrary to that. Both of these individuals have come to the conclusion and opinion that the evidence is insufficient to support that determination. And it's well within their purview to testify to that.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't think that's her actual opinion. I initially didn't think of it in these terms as it's phrased on the cover page of the report. If you look at the actual opinion,
I was looking at the last page. Are they the same on the front and the back?
I think the front is a little more definitive and concerning. The back, I think, more as to it's consistent with a whole multitude of different things. So the fact that I don't really think that's an opinion at all, to be honest with you.
All right, I'll take a look at this more closely, give you a decision Thursday. All right, I did not expect it to go this quickly. We could have had the jury here, but I'm sure you all could use the afternoon.
I did.
All right, Mr. Lally,
I thought it was going to go this
Thursday.
quickly.
Are you ready to go forward at least with your case on Thursday?
Now we get a half day, Jay.
Let me know
Half
Thursday if you
day,
need additional time.
Half day, Jay.
If I let these witnesses, if I let
ourselves a half
Dr.
day,
Russell
Jay.
testify,
Yeah.
how that impacts our schedule.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
All right, but I don't want that to be a concern of yours, how it impacts the schedule. That's my concern. I just need to know. All right, so anything else?
For the Commonwealth.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you Thursday morning.
All right.
Crime League.
Damn it.
God damn it, Jay.
I got casual Jesse'd again. Yeah, so that wasn't a mistake. If you are first hearing that, there is no court tomorrow. No court tomorrow. I'm thinking what I might do, since it's a half day today, go to the thrift and do a little show on my thrifting channel, maybe for like an hour tomorrow morning. I don't know. But Bob, what did you think about overall about today's
Yes, Deb, I am sleeping. I just woke up. Thank you for asking. It was a pleasant nap as well. No, I'm texting, and I was actually trying to pull some sound clips to keep adding to our war chest of sound clips. I'm always on the lookout for more clips because they're fun. They're just fun, Jay. My my overall opinion, I think she will allow Dr. Marie Russell to testify as to what she believes were the cause of the injuries to John O'Keefe. I don't think she'll allow her to testify as to them being inconsistent with an automobile or a motor vehicle accident. So I think she'll limit her testimony, but I think she'll allow her to, because remember, there's always the threat of things being overturned on appeal. Like that weighs on Judge Bev's mind. You know, she doesn't want to get overturned. So she's going to try to make the right decisions on these things. And as Jackson said, to bar her entirely is dire. It's the, you know, the biggest, most powerful remedy that she has at her disposal. And it hurts the defense. It hurts the defense for them not to be able to challenge that. So I think she'll allow that in on a limited basis. And I think that she's going to allow both these guys to testify, but she'll limit it. It sounded pretty clear she wasn't going to allow any kind of medical analysis of any kind in terms of what may have caused the injuries. But in terms of whether or not they can render an opinion as to whether they believe that John O'Keefe was struck by the Lexus, I think she's going to allow that in. So I think ultimately all three will end up testifying, but will be somewhat limited in their scope of what they can testify about. You're muted or something.
Me? No, I'm not. I was going to say, so it looks like if that is the case, that Thursday is the full day and Friday is the half day. Bob, you want to take Thursday since today was a half day? You only got a half day.
Sure.
So you'll take Thursday. I'll take for this way. It'll be even. I'll take
Okay.
Friday. I'll have a half day, and then Bob will. So we'll be Thursday. We'll be on Bob's channel we're on Bob's channel. We'll be on this channel. Then we'll be on mine on Friday. And let's talk about, Bob, what we're doing tonight because we're gonna have people coming in late today at 7:30 Eastern. Raul Ketchlisk and Kerry Ross are going to come on and talk about that ridiculous John Ray press conference. And then Bob, are you 9 Central?
Yeah, I'm going to do 9 Central. And preceding both Jay and I,
yes.
TV is going. They're doing a murder church, like a lovely evening in the murder church on Wednesday or Tuesday night. So is today Tuesday or Monday? Tuesday
with a young Alan Jackson as the prosecutor in the Phil Spector case. That case is crazy, guys. Obviously it's an archive thing. That's what Steve does, but it's great to watch a young. It's Linda Baden is an attorney in there. It's a wild trial, so you don't want to miss out publicly, Buzz. We got to get
that. And Jackson's young as hell in that.
Baby,
crazy little baby. He's still kind of baby faced for being like 70. He's clearly got a ton of work done, but yeah, I ain't sweating him. You know, I mean, you do you. Ajax, you do you. And then at 9, I will be back with my friend Bill Dorsch, former Chicago homicide detective, who is actively searching for additional Gacy victims with me. We hope to have shovels in the ground at some point late summer, early
crazy,
fall.
man. Imagine you guys are gonna find stuff. I mean,
if we do, I'm going to consider it to be a huge relief for some families out there, because Bill and I are very confident that there's additional victims. We never have thought that Gacy stopped at 33 or that was the the complete total of people that he ended their lives. We just think there's more, and we think we know where they are. So, and he's also going to be talking a little bit about what I was talking about early. If you were late, he was actually a whistleblower cop, which is unusual. But the guy that he whistle blew on was, to me, the worst cop to ever don a badge in this country. He put 51 innocent, like factually innocent men in prison on murder beefs, and 40 of them have been exonerated at this point. It's
and like you said, for like 50, these aren't like a year, 15 to 20 years. These people were in
long bid. Some of them served their full 25+ year sentences, man. It's insane. It's insane. And oddly enough, this cop's just walking around.
Unbelievable.
Never been charged with anything. Like, that's the other side of that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'd love if you guys come and hang. I'll be putting that stream together as soon as we get off here today, Jay. And
I'll portal my if you're in my 7:30 Eastern, all you'll have to do, like, to find that stream is I'll end my stream and then we call a portal. It'll just go into whether it's live at the time or earlier, you'll have that stream ready to go.
Meg, I'll look for that. I'll look for that sound effect. What else is there, brother? Thank you guys for all your continued generosity. I think I saw a couple of late ones come in. Jesse Charles Bob, how many victims did Gacy have an accomplice for? He definitely had an accomplice, right? We believe so. We believe he had a couple of accomplices. David Cram, who's now deceased, and then Michael Rossi, who is alive. And I don't know if he's well, but he's alive down in, we believe, Texas. So I actually tried to get him on the podcast, and he wanted $50,000 to do an interview. But we certainly believe that he had a hand. I mean, if you listen to the Gacy tapes, Jesse, our first season of the podcast, we deal a lot with Cram and Rossi, a lot.
And if you're on the replay crew, all you got to do is scan that little code behind Bob's shoulder to get the podcast, which is the main game. Scan that, and that's how you can listen to all those podcasts, which is an amazing podcast that you don't want to miss.
Yeah, and Hammy, that's a great question. Jay and I met over the Twitter machine via the Murdoch trial. I thought Jay was hilarious, and I was just kind of firing up my Twitter account, and I hit him up, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I think you're great. I think you're really funny. I'd love to do some stuff with you." And we started chatting about, like, neither of us had started our YouTube channels at that point. So like Jay wasn't fucking around. Like Jay was like, boom, I'm going to get this thing up and running. You know, I was like more tentative. I'm like, I don't understand YouTube. What do I do? I make it? Jay was like, boom. He's like, dude, quit fucking around. Get your shit started. So, and then, the friendship was born out of that.
We realized very quickly we were cut from the same cloth, as you guys could tell. Like, we realized that very quickly.
100%. And this is our first full trial we've done together, first of many. But yeah, we think we're a pretty good team. Hopefully you guys agree. We think we bring you all you could ever want. Jay's got that amazing sense of humor. He's got that quick observational wit that he could just fire off in the blink of an eye. And, I could be funny as well. And I try to bring a little legal insight. Plus I bring that really smart chick with me.
Plus, you're the man of 1,000 voices that has perfected the Lally Bob objection.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's our what do they call those, Jay? Like when they do the origin story.
Origin story, yeah.
So, but we love you guys so much. As predicted, I thought it would be a short day, and in fact, it was. I'm getting off at 11, which is tasty for me. I'm going to go make my morning coffee, which I've been yet to have
yet. You haven't had your coffee yet. Good for
you. Oh man, I was running late. Like, so this is Jay, and like, so every day Jay, it's on his channel. He's there probably 5 minutes early. He's got the stream running. He may be running around doing something in the house, and it's like me at like 7:44. Clock ticking over to 7:45. I'm like, what's up, man? Let's go. We start the stream, we get it all rolling. So again, tonight, make sure you're hitting PB at 6, Jay at 7, us at 9. We'll keep you guys informed and entertained tonight with a bunch of really interesting stuff. Tonight is some deeper stuff from Jay and I in terms of kind of our subject matter. So but we'd really, really both appreciate if you guys check it out. We feel like this alternate content we bring you guys is important. We think it's relevant. So if you guys aren't doing anything, check us out live. If not, hit us on the replay. Before you leave today, if you'd be kind enough to just give us a little like, share, subscribe, that gets us in the algo, gets us out to the YouTubes because we're both growing and we love that. And you guys, like I say it every day when I tweet it, and Jay echoes it all the time. You guys are the best chat out there. There's none out there that even compare. And I troll and I go in and I'm active in a lot of chats, and there's plenty of great chats out there. But in terms of the best in the business, y'all are it.
Absolutely.
I mean, every day you bring it, every day. There's just brilliance, hilarity, everything you could ask for in our chat. So we're so thankful for you guys, for this amazing community that we've built. And we thought you guys were nothing. So just remember
You're the best. And Bob, also the best mods. And just to let you guys know, the mods,
Absolutely.
you've been working overtime during this trial. We know it. We appreciate it. It's almost done. If Friday, the state may rest, and then it may be to the jury next week. So we really appreciate the mods and all they do.
We do. So
they make
so
the
much.
chat a safe place for everyone to be. So thank you.
They do. It's like, you know, like I don't even see it because I'm looking, like Jay's like probably looking on the YouTube chat where all of us that are mods can see the shit. So I'm always looking on the StreamYard chat because I'm looking what to star and what to throw up on the screen. So it's like I always miss it. And so I always just see the beautiful, happy, wonderful, amazing chat. I never seen the, you know, the ugliness because our mods are so good at shutting it down. So good, so good. So all right, you guys, short day, but you know, it was interesting. It was interesting. And we will see you all tonight and then over here on Thursday for the trial when it picks back up. Remember,
Thanks,
no court tomorrow, dark. All right. All right. Love you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
All right. I'm going to play our outro, and then Jay and I will bid you a fond farewell.